Okay, just real quick, my 2 cents on the series that started today. Many people I found that kept off all day to the Syrian Free Syrian Army offensive nowadays, you know, the one west of Idlib. And actually, I'm not that optimistic. Like, even the Free Syrian Army said it's a limited retaliatory operation. What did they call it?
Well,
Rad
what they're
al-Udwan or
doing is
something.
so
Yeah, but
basically,
basically,
you know,
like they launched a couple of offensives. They captured, I think, 7 or 8 villages by now. But they said
18
they don't
villages.
intend to go far, and people are off to them as if they were going to liberate Aleppo. Also, it's not nearly going as great as you think. Like there was this large bunker and barracks that were bombed. There was the Syrian Air Force started bombing Idlib for the first time in 4 years. Previously, it was just the Russians, and you know the Russians love bombing, so they let them do it. And also, many of the attacks got repelled, got ambushed. There are some very gruesome footage going around these days. So yeah, it's not fun or anything. It's not nice. It's not going to be a glorious victory for the Syrian revolution. Don't get your hopes up.
What has
I think
what's
this
the
is
sorry just before okay sorry you can respond to that and then I'll ask something.
Sure. No, I just want to say this is a very pessimistic way to see this. I'm not saying this is this huge event that will completely put down Assad. I think there's still a long way to go. But some keynotes to note about what you just said. First of all, this is the first big offensive or even battle that happens between the rebels and the Assad regime.
But wasn't there like large clashes? Didn't like 400 Assadists die in the clashes? I think 5 or 6 months ago.
That was just an organized attack, and we still don't know if the rebels did that or it was just Assad avenging from some people in his clan. So
No,
that was.
Ayat Tahrir Sham took accountability for it. They actually showed the footage with them taking back the tanks and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna argue about that because I'm not sure. I didn't do a lot of research about that. That was a one hit off. Like it wasn't a big battle or offensive. So yeah, just to continue my point, the offensive today didn't take 8 villages. It took 18 villages. It took one of the main points where Assad hold weapons. It's called Forge 64. And they're also 5 kilometers away from Aleppo. Like they're very close to Aleppo right now. And the offensive isn't over yet. Like it started 9 hours ago. So I'm not saying this is a huge revelation.
Okay.
We'll have to wait to see what's gonna happen. But I think so far it's going so good. The Russians don't seem to get interfered so far. So there might have been some kind of Russian-Turkish deal for the Russians not to get involved. Also, Netanyahu threatened Assad yesterday, so I'm not sure if that's related.
What did he say?
But he said that Assad's playing with fire. And this is, I think, the first time that Netanyahu addresses Assad in one of his speeches.
Jesus. He deals with one problem,
I
another one
think
comes up.
Yeah.
But he talks about him regularly. He even like had a drone film his pass and say, "Hello guys, happy birthday" or some.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that, but I mean, I think since October 7th is the first time that Netanyahu addresses Assad personally in his speeches.
The main goal of the offensive was, I don't know if you guys know this, but like recently Syria's been getting a lot of like northwestern Syria, the rebel held areas are getting a lot of refugees right now because people are fleeing Assad's territory and they're also fleeing Lebanon. So they're coming to northwest Syria. So it's becoming very densely populated and unsustainable. So the rebels are also seeking to capture more territory so they can spread the people out more. And they want to get parts of Aleppo where there's a lot more living space, basically.
Living space.
Bombed non-stop since like a couple of months ago, and like the last few weeks was the heaviest bombing we've seen by the Assad regime into the liberated areas since in the last couple of years. So this is also kind of a retaliatory operation. But I think most of all, like from what I've seen from like generals talking about it, is that they've been preparing for an offensive for a while now. They've been just waiting for the right moment, and apparently, like the day of after the announcement of the ceasefire with Hezbollah is the right moment.
Yeah, that's good analysis. Yeah.
Wait, why is it right now the right moment? Like, did it make sense when all the things are going on? Or no, that would be a real bad image. You have a point.
Is
I
it
mean, I
worth?
think your analysis were saying that Hezbollah is making like a ceasefire in Lebanon to focus on other things, and
That's what I
mainly
would have
like
guessed.
Iran and their involvement in Syria. And I think there's like this huge consensus right now about like, that Iran has to get out of Syria. Like everyone is okay with that. The Russians, the Turks, the Arab world, the Americans, everyone.
Listen, guys,
You
just to
know,
keep things
he has a point.
into proportion, okay? So I listen. I know, okay, but the audience doesn't. So can someone explain which color is which on this map? Who controls the red?
Okay, you see that triangle area between, like in the border with Iraq and Jordan?
This or
No, below it.
Iraq and Jordan. Oh, that's
Yeah, in
fucking
the border.
here.
Yeah,
This tri-
that's called the Tanf area. It's basically American and American sponsored militias. It's where the 3 soldiers got drone strike last year, I think. Last year or a few months ago. I don't know. Six,
Who controls
7
this
or
area?
6
The yellow
months.
area? Who controls it?
SDF, the Syrian
Kurds.
Democratic Forces, the Kurds.
Also,
Syrian
they
Democratic
they are
Forces,
often
okay.
referred to as the Eastern Euphrates forces because, as you can see, the line is on the Euphrates River.
River, yeah.
So,
Damn, that's where. So Israel doesn't want to control this part.
yeah,
This will be Syria
they would
post
make a secret alliance with
Israeli
them.
conquest.
They would take
Yeah.
the East, and Israel would take
It's
the
all
West.
making sense now. This is why the pro Western guys they only went east of the Euphrates. Interesting. Who's in the
Yeah,
blue? Is
and
that
on the river,
is the blue or is it the Kurds or I don't know.
blue is our fun fellows and the fun Central Asian fellows, the Turks.
The Turks.
Yeah, blue is
oh.
Turkey.
Ah,
You see, the Kurds and Turks don't really like each
No, they
other,
don't, do they?
and they kind of invaded him.
yeah.
This
So
is like a
was this
state
like did this
bomb.
used to be Kurdish or
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And
where did the Kurds
I
go?
think that they f***ed off, and I think Turkey sent some Arabian settlers into Kurdish territories.
Ooh, not good.
Like some of the Syrian refugees, they just shoved them there.
All right. Is anyone else in power in this yellow area apart from SDF? Do they share power with anyone or?
But they have some parties, and they have also some affiliate militias. They have some Arabic forces that are allied with them, some tribal forces, and there are also some small pockets of ISIS fuckers. And I think, yeah, the Assyrians. They have some Assyrian units, but Assyrians hate them absolutely, hate them to the bones. Like they would make Turks sound like their best friends. I don't know why. They just hate them.
Okay, yeah, and
Despite being allies.
SDF is led by Kurds, right?
Yeah, it's led by Kurds. Yeah.
Are they majority Kurdish, this area?
I think it's like 50-50. It's like 50% Kurdish militias, or like I think it's no, actually it's like 30% Kurdish, and then the other 70% are like different groups that they're leading, whether it be like Arab groups, former rebel groups, etc.
Okay.
A quick controversy to point it out: the Kurds. You know how in war you have the front line, and you need the people in the front line to f*** off so that they don't get.
Yeah.
And most of those frontline villages were Arabic. And the thing is that some of those Arabs, when they come back to their villages, they find some Turks living there instead, some Kurds living there instead, or they find the village is gone as a whole, or like they find that the village they are barred from it, and it's a very mixed topic. There is some legitimate military necessity in it, and some retardation going on. Like overall, the Kurds are cool, but that was some retarded shit.
Okay.
Like they are. If I had to say they are good guys, it's them, but they have retardation as well.
Who's the red area? Is this the government or?
Is the
That's
government.
Yeah, I guess it's
Yeah.
Damascus. Yeah, okay. So this is where you've got Assad. I'm guessing Russians kick around here as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
but
Yep.
Okay. What are the gray areas? The gray pockets here.
I
ISIS.
think it's ISIS, yeah.
Oh, they're still
They
clinging
have
on.
some minor pockets. Like they don't really control the area, but like they have some presence there.
Okay.
But I think
And
even
they,
though... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
and like they don't really have practical control over the area. They just any acidus that comes there. That's the thing.
Whoa. Okay. Green part down here. I'm guessing it's a different kind of green to this one.
Yeah,
It's
the green...
another FSA group.
Which green?
No, this
Oh,
green is
I'm-
actually the Americans. This is the ton of...
Buddy, okay, shut the f up. Sorry. I told you about it first thing. It's the Americans and their allied commando militia army. I don't know what it's called. It's a very retarded name. It was like
the Army
trained
of
and
Free
armed
Syria.
by the glorious Jordanian armed forces, and it's there to basically stop weapons smuggling between Iran, Iraq, and Syria. But it doesn't really do any. They have some refugee camps there, and 3 American soldiers who got were in that area, right at the border with Jordan, like in the no man's zone. I can make a more extensive commentary on it, but it really doesn't deserve much.
When people say
If you want, I
America, when like Trump heads or whatever, or
Yeah,
like tankies say
exactly.
that America
That's
controls a third of Syria, are they talking about this?
yes, exactly.
Okay.
And when they say that they need to get every soldier out of out of Syria, it's this area, and it actually costs, I think, 0.2% of military intervention budget worldwide.
Okay.
They say that we should
Not only
absolutely
that,
get
but
out of Syria. This
not
is
only
it.
that, but most of the soldiers who operate there actually like their bases and barracks and everything. They are in Jordan, but like they move there. They have some forward operating bases there and training bases there. But most of the stuff is done in Jordan, so
So
it's kind of between Jordan and Syria.
So the parties involved here are what? America. You said the Jordanians are here as well.
The Jordanian army doesn't really makes any training or military operations there. Just some relief efforts.
Okay. Who else?
Just those. There's
America and
the
Jordan.
Syrian Commando Army Revolutionary. I don't know what's their
Okay.
name. Jesh.
Is there any like
It's a
SDF
retarded
or
name.
any of those
It's
people?
very
here?
no.
Okay.
No,
Basically, it's a very small force. It's I think 3,000 to 5,000, but nobody around because you would get bombed to oblivion.
So does America not
That's
have?
just-
Does America not have Syrian allies in this area?
We do.
I think
The Army
they
of
do,
Free
Yes.
yes,
Syria.
but they're
I told you that Commando Army.
The Syrian Commando Army. Okay.
Well, they call themselves Army of Free Syria or the Syrian Commando Army.
Okay.
Oh, the Revolutionary Commando Army. جيش مغوير الثورة. قص أخت الاسم.
Revolutionary Commando Army. So does the? Okay. Okay. All right. And what are they?
also we should note that actually this headquarter gets bombed like every week, I think, since October 7. Every like extremist Iraqi or Iranian militia bombs this area, but it's always like some kind of light bombing, just so these people can actually blow some steam off. And whenever the United States responds, they give them some huge blow. So yeah, like someone mentioned earlier, when 3 soldiers were, we had some big bombing of other militia groups in the area. But yeah, basically, other than that, nothing happens there. It's kind of a dead zone.
Okay. And this last area up here, the lighter green, Idlib.
So this is, yeah.
Our fun and
I'm
salvation
guessing this is
government.
the Syrian Salvation Government.
Okay.
Is this not
And,
where people? Is this
northern
not where people
area,
say there's all
Afrin,
kinds of like Al Qaeda or Al Nusra? Is that not? Are they not around here as well? Or
No, the
Or-
Al Qaeda and Al Nusra is in Idlib. These guys are completely different. They're different rebel militias.
Okay,
of
so the one in the
Syrian
north, in Afrin, they are the Turks, like the group supported by Turks, and in Idlib, they are the Salvation Government, also supported by Turks.
oh wait, there's two. There's like different. So is this place the same as this for control, or is it like a different? Why is there a frontier?
Yes
here?
and no, like they are basically both a Free Syrian army, but one area is has military presence by Turkey.
So this
Like,
is free.
This
okay.
is the. Okay, you know when we said that the Turks invaded the Kurds and they eventually ended up sucking the Assad to
Yeah.
help them out.
Yeah.
It was this area that they invaded.
How do you guys know that so much about Syria? What's your involvement there?
I'm Jordanian. We are like on the border, so.
My
Okay,
family's
yeah.
in.
What
Your
about you?
family's in Syria? Okay, yeah, sure. I am Syrian. I grew up there, got out there when I was 17, so I followed the revolution step by step.
Okay, if it's not a private question, we're from Syria.
I'm from Hasake, in the northeast, the Kurdish
so
area.
like,
right now.
you are not a Kurd, yeah?
No, I am not, no.
I actually don't know much about Husky. How's it there nowadays? Like, do you have any families still there?
No, that's the thing. I moved out there during in 2013 after the revolution, so I kind of lost contact with there. I know it's not like an ideal situation right now, but still better than being under still better than being in the regime zone.
Okay, so in terms of political rights, freedom of speech, and general liberties, how do you, what's your perception of it?
I mean, I don't have any like it's just stories I hear from people I know. So I don't want my to be taken by these words. But yeah, it's not great. Like there are not that much of liberty of speech. If you speak about against the the SDF leaders, you might actually go to prison. At some point, even Arabs had to get some kind of visa to get back. Like if like you're going to study in Damascus, and want to get back to Hasake, and you're Arab, like you had to get some kind of like approval. So yeah, I mean, a lot of things are not going well there, but I think like it's a transformative period. Like what makes me like that it's just sad because it's not really like there are a lot of tension between the Kurds and the Arabs, like between the opposition and the Kurds mainly. And I think it's really not the right time to actually have battles between each other while still the Assad is and the Iranian militias are in Syria.
Yeah,
They should ally.
that's
That'd be
really what
something.
I believed.
Sorry.
I said they should
That
ally.
was my general perception.
And how does
Yeah,
the Hezbollah Israel ceasefire affect any of this? Are Hezbollah going to move and focus more on this, or what?
Yeah, and also most importantly, if they attacked Hezbollah while they were fighting Israel, not a particularly good look.
Yeah. So is that probably good for Assad that he's got his boys back?
Not really, because they're like
Not
weak.
necessarily. The boys are now the boys are weakened. They are battered, and they are trying to regroup. They are mostly concentrating themselves in Lebanon, trying to arm up because a ceasefire probably won't be renewed after 2 months.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because I was wondering what stops them from just going up to the Bekaa and just getting a bunch of arms pushed in from Iran and starting again, coming back down and fucking off the army.
Like, imagine if Hezbollah just like goes into Syria right now. Why would Israel not just go in again?
Well, I guess if Hezbollah goes into Syria, then Israel's like, well, okay, the Lebanese army is going to come down here, and because right now it's like I even know how they're going to do this, but there's going to be like a coordinated withdrawal, right? So Israel's going to withdraw, and then the Lebanese army is going to follow them into the south. Isn't that what's expected to happen right now?
Yes,
Yeah.
but I think
Oh damn! We used the same water bottle. We are like twins.
Yeah,
But,
amazing.
but you forgot about the thing that in the deal that in the ceasefire deal, Israel didn't say anything about bombing Syria. So like if Hezbollah members go to Syria, they can continue to bomb them, and I think they will. I think the next days, like in the last 2 weeks, we've seen more bombs from Israel to Syria than any time earlier. So I think that the next phase will be that anytime like there's like an arm shipment from Syria to Lebanon, or like Hezbollah members trying to hide in Syria, they will just catch them there and them there, and they would still be respecting the deal because the deal is just a ceasefire with Lebanon.
It's a ceasefire with Lebanon. Oh, so Israel can still hit Hezbollah in Syria.
Yes.
Sneaky.
And also, like yesterday, just like 2 hours before the ceasefire deal was struck out, like started officially, they hit two big border lines, I think, between Syria and Lebanon, like the main places where
The crossings to the Bekaa, and
yeah,
also
the
they hit
crossings.
Palmyra. If anyone saw it, like
Yes.
80 dudes died. It was a crazy stark. Like if anyone actually saw the aftermath footage, like they demolished part of the town. The town was uninhabited. Like it only had military personnel. So like, yeah.
Apparently, this offensive has just claimed another part west of Aleppo. This area here, just as while we were talking, someone in chat said.
Al-Ba'adu.
Whatever the this is. Wow.
Either way, Hezbollah already broke the terms of the ceasefire.
What did they do?
A rocket launcher was spotted going down south. That's one. And then two, more critically, some militants were spotted near the border. So then the Israelis arrested them, like 6 or 7, in like Farkila, which is on the border.
I remember from that interview that one of the Hezbollah guys was having with Israeli security. He said that it's a very common thing for people to be in Hezbollah only because that's how they get a job, and then they were the first people to desert. But I imagine on the other end, if you have a change of power, especially from a leader who's very popular and very beloved, then the problem is that you're going to have hardliners as well who do the opposite of deserting, where they basically just keep fighting despite orders, right? Hamas has a base behind his head. JFK. What's the joke there? The joke is that Hagari is always like just appearing on the battlefield. And one of his big things is to show you that Hamas uses civilian infrastructure, right? Hagari appears from behind the bushes and says, "Today, I'm going to show you how the UNRWA welfare system has been converted into terror system. Look inside these school books. These are grenades. Look, looks like an ordinary blackboard. Look what happens behind the blackboard. AK-47s, RPGs, laptops. This is not educational equipment. You cannot do your homework with an RPG unless your homework is Jews. Today, after a long year of conducting precise strikes against Hezbollah infrastructure, we have shown you what we have seen."
Good evening. In the early morning, the ceasefire agreement was valid, as was approved by the Prime Minister, Minister of Defense, and the Cabinet. We are still in the area, still active. Any armed people in this zone, which is marked in the map, is a breach of the ceasefire agreement, and any armed person will be taken care of. Today, we Hezbollah terrorists. We have taken hostages, several people from a village, and they're being interrogated.
It's not a great translation, isn't it? What the? Taken hostages. I think he means POWs, but maybe not. Did they just kidnap some random Lebanese duders in the hills? Uh-oh. Hebrew speakers, did he actually say hostages?
Let's get more on this from Hans-Jakob Schindler. He's Senior Director at the non-governmental organisation Counter-Extremism Project. He joins us from Berlin. Welcome back to DW. So, no formal comment on this ceasefire from Hezbollah yet, but their backers in Iran have welcomed the deal. Do you see that as a positive sign that the agreement might actually hold?
Absolutely. Hezbollah, especially now in its weakened form, is more dependent on Iran than it was a year ago. And hence, if the guys who are paying for the show telling you that this is the decision, it is very clear that Hezbollah is going to keep to the agreement.
You talk about Hezbollah being weakened there. Israel, of course, having many of its leaders and severely compromised its organisation. How strong is Hezbollah now after months of fighting?
Well, I mean, Hezbollah has several parts. So the military terrorist part is certainly weakened. The command and control structure is very severely disrupted. The tunnel network is disrupted. Many of the rocket and drone launch sites has been destroyed. And of course, you have the top commanders all dead. However, Hezbollah is also a political and social organization. And already in the reports that you just showed, you can see that this social support base has not been weakened. So the sad news is, of course, this is a political window of opportunity to hopefully also weaken Hezbollah politically in Lebanon and then get a president elected for the country, which Hezbollah has blocked over the last couple of years, 13 times. However, it's not clear whether that's possible at this point.
Understood. So was Hezbollah effectively bounced into this? They're in a very weak position. They had few other options.
Militarily, they had no longer any really options.
Why do you almost exclusively play defense for the Israeli side nowadays? If you get that impression from my content that it's almost exclusive defense for the Israeli side, that's only because you're only, like, the only thing you would ever tolerate is exclusive opposition to the Israeli side. Like, every other video I do talking about Israel, I talk about some war crime or some massacre or something they're doing right. Even today, when I covered the ceasefire, I just spoke about how just as the ceasefire was announced, they started bombing parts of Beirut that have no Hezbollah significance. And it seems to be the thing that they targeted was a shop that sells board games where people host Catan evenings. So you idiot, just say what you mean. I don't know why people do this. Like, oh, why is it always so biased and wouldn't fit? But when the only kind of content I know you would accept is one that is just genocide, Israel evil, genocide, intentional, everything. Who's this? Never seen this person before. NG3 Comrade, hello. What can I do for you?
I just wanted to talk about Syria because some of the accounts that you were posting earlier, or showing on the stream earlier, like the memes are good, but the groups right now conducting an offensive against Assad aren't really much better than Assad. It's the two groups involved right now is Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, and the Syrian National Army. HTS they're Islamists, and the leader of HTS is Jolani, who was the leader of Al-Nusra Front, who was the Al-Qaeda branch in Syria. And the SNA is basically just a coalition of the Turkish proxy militias in Syria. Both of these groups ethnically cleansed hundreds of thousands of Kurds from Afrin and commit constant atrocities against the tiny amount of Kurds that still live in Afrin. So they're not
a group that hasn't ethnically cleansed the Kurds. They're by all directions.
But there's a bunch of accounts on Twitter right now, calling them
To be clear, I think I was looking at those accounts and said that I don't think there's these guys are good guys, right? Didn't I say that?
Oh, fair enough. I didn't see that. But yeah, there's just a lot of posting on Twitter right now, supporting these guys. By a lot of people have no idea what they're about.
What do you want to happen in Syria?
My goal would be best endpoint would be that Rojava basically kicks the out of Assad and then kicks Turkey out of Syria, and they implement the system that they've got across all of Syria. Basically, it's probably not going to happen, but that would be my ideal goal. But
okay, but are there any more doable things that you would support?
Well, honestly, the best thing that could happen would be that the American government at least stops letting Turkey bomb their living out of all the infrastructure.
You cut out.
Yeah, 1 minute. I'm just getting a phone call. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
Z man.
Where
you still got Z?
Oh yeah.
Hello.
Hello, Z.
I wanted to talk about Syria as well.
Fuck's sake.
You seem to, you seem to have a lot of people to talk about Syria right now. But about the guy who was just with you on the call, Rojava is literally not interested in that kind of deal because what they want is a federal system in the country, and they're trying to negotiate with Assad on that. On the account that
doesn't Rojava just represent a small section of the country, right? I don't think they represent anything across the mass of Syria. Yeah, so they would want their own little. Yeah, okay.
They've been promoting a very federal system in the country. Speaking of the factions that are heading the coalition, yeah, they are Islamists, but they've been moderating quite lately in terms of their branding. To be fair.
Moderating in the sense of optics, or actually moderating their policies, because everyone's moderated. Hamas has been moderating.
Mostly optics, yeah, but the coalition is dominated by Tahrir al-Sham and the
they were moderate, and then they became Twitch streamers for a day on October 7th.
Okay.
I'm mostly here to contend this person.
Okay. Well, they can unmute.
Yo.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
What do you think of that? Z says that these people on the offensive right now have been moderating more recently.
I mean, they can moderate all they like. They're still going to ethnically cleanse more Kurds when they can.
I kind of agree on that because the Turkish forces are very much. That's their plan, to make pockets of land to put the Syrian refugees back in the country.
Yeah, exactly.
And they don't care about the Kurds in the area.
What I was saying before I had to take a phone call was basically the main thing that would be best for the Kurds in Syria right now would be that the US basically stops Turkey from constantly bombing the shit out of all the hospitals, water treatment facilities, oil and gas plants in Rojava, because they've cut off. I don't know if you've seen it, but because of Turkish bombing, there's I think 1 million people in Rojava right now that don't have good access to water anymore because of Turkey constantly bombing them. And the US controls the airspace over Rojava, and they're just letting it happen.
The only problem with that right now is the timeline of this offensive kind of is not good for the Kurds at all, because Biden is going out and Trump pretty much doesn't care about the Kurds at all.
Yeah, Trump doesn't care. He was the one that originally backstabbed them and let the Turks start the ethnic cleansing of campaigns anyway.
He did do that.
But I don't know. I've still got, because obviously I fought in Syria, and I've still got a lot of people there that I'm in contact with, and they said that the SDF, which is the military of Rojava, is sending reinforcements to basically there's an enclave that they control north of Aleppo where the offensive is happening. Basically, it's just an area full of all the refugees that Turkey ethnically cleansed from Afrin, and they're very worried that as soon as they take Aleppo, they're going to try and basically kill everyone in that enclave.
I wouldn't say they're gonna take Aleppo, because the original objective of this offensive, as Turkish sources have been saying, wasn't to actually, take Aleppo. They were trying to expand the front back to the 2019 borders.
But to be honest, bro, the Syrian army is getting its shit kicked in right now, and I wouldn't be surprised if they got pushed out of Aleppo.
They expanded the front because the Syrian army was retreating the whole time. So they counter right now.
They've picked the right opportunity because Hezbollah just pulled all their guys off of that front line, which is why they launched it now.
Yeah, I was about to say, someone was asking you about Hezbollah and Syria. They actually deployed in Aleppo, according to some sources.
Hezbollah isn't in Aleppo right now. That's why everything's gone to It's the, I forget the names. You know the IRGC militia made up of Pakistanis and Afghans?
Yeah, I think let me grab the tweet. I think I've seen it earlier as well.
But,
a lot of militias from Iran is actually being deployed right now.
It's all their B-tier militias though. It's not like their actual top ones. It's all their B-tier ones, like the ones made up of Pakistani and Afghan refugees in Iran that they basically just promise citizenship to if they'll fight in Syria. But I honestly would.
People saying Russian special forces are actually being redeployed in the area.
I know some of them got killed. I know some of them. The HTS guys posted up with a bunch of obviously Russian stuff gear.
Yep, one of their guys and the others retreated, leaving all.
Yeah, a major IRGC general got smoked as well, probably in a drone attack or something. But
yeah, their wins are actually pretty good right now, but I wouldn't be too optimistic about it.
I don't know, man. They're getting their kicked in right now, and from what I've seen, they're probably going to take Sarakib, which is massive, because if they can permanently cut off the M5 highway from Damascus to Aleppo, it's going to be really hard for them to reinforce Aleppo.
That would be it, but if the Russian forces and Syrian air forces actually just bomb their supply lines, they can't really reinforce Aleppo at all.
And you think that Hezbollah are going to keep on trying to reestablish in the south right now?
No, but I mean, say the ceasefire broke and fighting continued. If they had a lot of their guys in Syria, then the IDF would be easier for them to push to Litani.
It all depends on the ceasefire, and not to mention Hezbollah is weakened as well.
Yeah, that's why I just seen today that Assad was sending is it the NDF, that militia that basically is in control of the Captagon trade.
Are you talking about the Tajikis or the Turkmen? Because it's one of them, if I remember correctly.
No, it's that Assadist militia that's it's a bit like Iran's Basiji, but basically all they do right now is run Captagon for Assad.
I'm not familiar with their name right now. They've deployed a lot of militias lately.
Yeah,
for the offensive.
Yeah,
I don't know, a list of them.
Because people have got to remember, the Syrian Arab army is stretched extremely thin right now, because even though right now the SDF and Assad aren't in a hot war, that could happen any minute. The so-called truce with Assad is barely held together.
Right after, to be fair, since there've been clashes in Idlib,
especially.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, but I'm saying the truce with the SDF and Assad though, the IRGC's been hitting across the border. Yeah, the IRGC's been hitting across the border in Deir ez-Zor for months, and from what I know from guys that are still in the YPG, they're very eager right now to basically go on the offensive against Assad to link up Tel Rafat with the rest of Rojava.
Just so we're steering the conversation here, when it comes to Hezbollah intervening and going into, or trying to stay in the south and maybe not going to help Assad, we know that Netanyahu has put out this warning where he says that if Syria tries to rearm Hezbollah through the border, then they're going to just strike them there, because I don't think the ceasefire in Lebanon affects Syria at all, right? And I think, given it's Netanyahu, if they see weapons imported into Lebanon going south, they're probably going to bomb them anyway. They said they're going to do that. I think generally the issue with, in any of these wars, the issue with a kind of broad regime change in places, when people talk about it in Russia or Iran and maybe Syria, I'm less confident there, but I think the idea is that people don't really know what would follow a regime change in a place that has had such consistent rule for so long, and in a time when people are going to be more radicalized than they were in the past. So, for example, if you're Syrian right now, or if you're an Arab anywhere, you're probably going to hate Israel now more than you hated them last year because of the war in Gaza.
Sure.
So I think there's a fear there that like regime change in Iran right now is scaring people because that might lead to the youth wing of the IRGC having more sway, and they're more radical than the current leaders. And with Syria, I guess the worry is that you have no idea what follows someone like Assad dying.
It's a massive power vacuum, but it wouldn't hold out for long because Bashar's family is pretty entrenched in the leadership of the country.
And again, yeah, power vacuums are scary when you don't know, when you can't control and have no idea what's going to replace it, right?
But that's not much of a problem for Israel, because it's not like it's not like any Syrian faction is gonna. If any Syrian faction took over Syria, it's not like they're gonna be able to launch an offensive against Israel.
Not an offensive, but you don't want another Hezbollah in Syria, where they use the
Iranians. I doubt the Iranians would be able to keep control of Syria if Assad died.
It depends on who takes his place. Whichever is the strongest militia, which right now is the Shia militias, especially in the south.
They're not looking too hot right now, I can't lie.
Right now, yeah, it's different, but we don't know how this offensive is going to roll out, especially if the SDF even joins them. They're aware. They've been made aware of the offensive before it happened, because they mobilized at the same time the Idlib forces did.
Who did, Assad or the SDF?
The SDF.
Oh yeah, I know. Like right now, you know how Tel Rafah is cut off from the rest of Rojava by that sliver of Assad-held territory?
Yeah.
Which is next to Manbij. I know for a fact. Well, I know because guys that's still in the YPG told me. The SDF has sent a of guys into Manbij, bordering Assad right now.
But they haven't been fighting with Assad's forces yet. We don't know if they're gonna.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they did something to try and relink up Tel Rafah, because they're very worried that if the HTS, the SNA and the Turks are successful in Aleppo, that they'll turn immediately on Tel Rafah.
It entirely literally depends on if the offensive actually holds, because right now there's been a report that is actually a counteroffensive by the Syrian army. So if they actually hold their territory right now, or if the Turkish army actually supports them, they're gonna actually be more persuaded to join. Because no one knows right now if this is gonna hold. Yeah, they retreated, but the Syrian army is known to retreat before they, do their actual offensive.
Well, yeah, that's the thing though. Like the Syrian army barely ever went on barely did any actual offensives in the whole war. Most of the offensives were done by the Iranians, well, the IRGC militias.
Okay, since you're a new voice here as well, because I don't think I've spoken to you before, what do you think? What goes forward between Lebanon, Israel, or Israel, Gaza from here? What are your takes?
I am really not confident that the ceasefire will hold, to be honest.
Why?
Because, well, there was already a breach of the ceasefire today. The IDF did some airstrikes in Lebanon today, and I don't know, man. I would just be shocked if all of the demands went through and Hezbollah actually withdrew, like partly from the south, and everything really went according to plan. I would be shocked. And with Gaza, I don't know. I don't even like thinking about Gaza. I just think it's kind of doomed, to be honest. I don't see how the situation will get better because it just seems like, okay, you've beaten Hamas, and it's just like what's going forward now? Like I don't really see what their end goal or strategy is.
What do you think it should be?
God, in my take is that the only way this improves is that some sort of coalition of maybe Arab states or maybe some UN peacekeeping force takes control of Gaza and implements a government with the PA or something. But that's like a pie in the sky dream at the minute. Like, who knows, to be honest.
Especially with this government.
Yeah, I don't think Israel would actually let them do that. I'll be real. At least this government.
That's what I mean.
Well, that's part of why Gallant was kicked out, right? Because he wanted that. he wanted something like that.
Also, with I just wanted to make a point about Hamas. Like, everyone online always talks about how like Iran is Hamas's main backer, when its main backer is the Egyptian intelligence service. It's not Iran. like how do you think the tunnels are allowed to happen? Who do you think allows all the weapons to go through the tunnels? Like, why do you think, was it Hanea or was it, oh god, what's his name? I'm forgetting his name. The military commander of Hamas who just died.
Dave or Sinwar?
Oh yeah, like why do you think Sinwar was in a GIS safe house in Egypt for so long? Like, and people have got to remember as well, like Hamas and Iran had a massive falling out over the Syrian civil war. Like, for a long time, Hamas was supporting the rebels and even building tunnels for them in the north.
To be fair, that ended in like 2014, right?
Well, like officially, but I know that there was still like some more covert support for a few years after that.
Don't they support the Hasan right now? Or somewhat like that?
Yeah, they support HCS, yeah, like openly.
Yeah, right now. I mean,
I did not know
like
that. Okay.
Yeah, they support them like pretty openly.
Yeah.
And obviously, Palestinians in general hate Assad, which
Most
is
of the region hate Assad, to be fair.
yeah, exactly. Like, do you guys remember there was a post from like it might have been last year of a bunch of Syrians in Idlib, like in protesting solidarity with Gazans, and all the like typical people you would expect were absolutely raging.
Yeah.
I mean, they were literally celebrating that Nasrallah was by Israel.
Yeah,
as
exactly.
well.
Yeah, that Syrian response was pretty insane. The parties in Idlib.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want any help researching Syria, I'll be more than willing to help because that's like, well, I fought there for one, so I know a bit about it.
Were you?
I've been
Are
following
you British
the
or
thing as well.
Are you British or what were you doing in
Yeah,
Syria?
yeah, I was with the British Army in 2018.
Oh, what? Do you mind if I ask what part? Or...
Yeah, basically we trained the YPG and then went on the offensive with them in Deir ez-Zor against ISIS.
Oh yeah, because okay. How open are
A
you
lot of
about the
people
whole thing there?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that there's still British troops there.
Yeah, I knew
Aren't they in
that.
the US base or in YPJ's territory?
They're a bit more integrated in like they don't really stay on base like the Americans do. They're like we was very out in the open and in with the local population. The Americans tend to stick to their bases or on patrols.
Is it in the north or the south?
Right now they're based in the north.
So you were with them in the fight against ISIS?
Yeah.
And if it was YPG, where would that have been? Where were you deployed?
Deir ez-Zor.
It's by the Euphrates, on the
By
Euphrates.
the Euphrates. Oh, here?
Yeah.
Deir ez-Zor.
We trained up a company of YPG fighters and then deployed with them. I was basically a tactical air controller calling in airstrikes and artillery.
Okay. Sorry, I'm going to ask you the most dumb questions ever. What do you mean calling in airstrikes? What does that mean?
So essentially, we trained up YPG guys to basically ask us when they needed air support, where they needed it, etc. I'd get the coordinates, I'd relay that to my commander, and he'd call in typhoons or whatever other air assets are on board. And then when they got above us, I'd link in with them, tell them, hey, this is where we are. This is where the YPG are. This is where the enemy are. Don't hit this place, etc.
So you're kind of like part of the decision-making process on whether or not to conduct an airstrike. Like you're part of that chain. Not obviously you don't make the decision, but you would identify, give coordinates, and then that would go up the chain, right? So you were just kind of like, so you're basically part of the whole apparatus that's involved in deciding an airstrike, because you would give coordinates that were given to you by people who needed support, and then that would go up to the commander, and then they would take it from there, right?
Yeah, the commander would basically get in touch with the Air Force. They'd say, hey, we need an airstrike in this location. Then when the pilot got close enough, I'd contact him over radio and basically tell him, hey, we've got friendlies in this place. Make sure you don't drop anything here. This is where the enemy are, and this is where I need it dropped.
Okay.
And yeah, or for example, when we were using Apaches at nighttime, I would have an IR laser, so an infrared laser that you can only see under night vision, and I'd point it at like a building or an enemy position, and they'd drop whatever they needed to drop, either Hellfires or 30mm thing.
And is there any area in that operation where does the proportionality calculation or the legal aspects, does that come up anywhere that you were near or involved in? Or?
Yeah, our rules of engagement were basically if there were any suspicions that there were civilians inside a building, it's off limits.
Any?
Yeah, any.
Okay.
Because basically what ISIS were doing, especially in 2018 when they were on the retreat, what ISIS were doing was say they controlled a village, they would either have the civilians that were already there, or they would even ship in civilians from further behind the front line. basically hold them hostage inside the village. And when they knew they were about to lose, they would basically say, if you don't let us leave with the civilians, we're going to kill them all.
Okay, yeah.
So so basically for like a good 3 months, we would surround villages beyond like the brink of taking them, and then the last few fighters would basically gather all the civilians and say, basically say, if you don't give us free passage, we're just going to kill all these hostages. So command got very, very risk averse when it came to airstrikes, which was the right decision in my opinion.
So was there, I'm guessing if it's like, so one civilian in a building is just off limits completely. Did that mean there wasn't really, so does that mean there wouldn't be much like legal debate on any particular strike in this situation?
Well, I don't think that came down to legality. That was just our rules of operation, which are our rules of engagement, which are completely like, yes, obviously they're influenced by the law, but they can just be made up whenever. Basically, the thinking was that if there's not just going to be one civilian, they're going to pack civilians in buildings that they were fighting from, which was what they were doing.
Okay.
Which is why we had to train YPG guys on basically hostage rescue tactics when it came to clearing buildings, because they weren't just facing militants. They would, for example, they'd go into a house, they'd have ISIS fighters in the living room and then a bunch of civilians in the kitchen that were wired up to an IED. So if the fighters were about to all die, they'd just clack it off and everyone would die in the building.
Jesus.
I wanted to ask a question actually. Did you have the authority to approve and disapprove these strikes, or did you actually just relay it to the commander and he had the?
No, that was all the commander's discretion. I would tell the commander the situation and he'd make that decision. Nowhere near high enough in the chain to make that kind of decision.
So in terms of the amount of people that have to clear this, it's like you've got the people on the ground who need support, then it goes to you, then it goes to the commander. Is that basically the process, or are there more people that have to go through?
Yeah, basically it would go from the YPG guys fighting to me, to my commander, and then to the pilot. The pilot doesn't really have much of a say because he can't know that much about the situation on the ground. He's relying on me and the commander.
Okay.
Yeah, the pilot just gets told what to do and where to drop it, essentially. Obviously, if he notices something glaringly wrong, he'll reject and he'll state his reason why. But unless something is blatantly wrong with the strike, then they'll go along with it because they trust us to do our job.
And is that your job as well, to between the command going to the pilot and the strike actually happening? Is it your job to make sure everything's basically still where it was, or anything's changed?
Yeah, basically, I'd be in constant communication with the YPG guys on the ground to make sure that nothing else changed by the time the pilot got there.
Okay.
For example,
is that NATO standard or just British standard?
I think that's NATO standard, but I couldn't tell you if that's NATO standard or just British standard. I've got an example, and we were in Deir ez-Zor. This was near the end of the offensive, and the YPG guys are in this village. They're fighting. They're telling me, we need you to drop something on this 3-story building because they've got machine guns and RPGs set up in the building, and we're just suppressing the out of us. We can't cross the street to engage them. I've asked them if they know any civilians are in the house. They've just been honest with me and they said they don't know. So I've had to have a pretty lengthy debate with my commander, which wasn't fun, whilst listening to guys on the radio begging me to drop a bomb on the house. And my commander basically said, listen, I can't give you permission for this strike because I just don't know. You don't have the information. I can't let you drop this. So we basically, in the end, I got a permission to get snipers in from another unit to drive down and help us with clearing the building.
Listen, thanks for all that. That was quite interesting. If the guys who are attacking Aleppo right now managed to take over the country or whatever, would they genocide the Kurds or some minority?
The Kurds, I don't believe so. I don't think they have any. They are not genocidal towards the Kurds. And now the Hayat Tahrir Sham, the Islamist guys, would definitely not be nice to the Orthodox Christians. My family is Orthodox. We don't really like them for obvious reasons. As for the Alawites, GG's for them. They are done for.
So I believe Aleppo is going to fall. Bro, it just keeps I've never seen a live UA map move this fast. What the hell? Special ops have withdrawn. Russian. Oh yeah, the mass exodus. This is Salah al-Din Square in Aleppo. Oh, it's not good if you're Assad, right? Yeah. Oh no. What happens if Syria falls? Syria is just a big country with a bunch of little countries in it. I would have gladly given up my life in this fight against injustice in Aleppo, but then my cats would never come to know where I'd gone. Hello, comrade.
Yo.
What can I do for you?
Because it's absolutely unhinged what's happening.
What, in Syria?
Yeah, this is were you following what was happening in the Middle East when Mosul fell to ISIS?
Nope, not really.
Basically, ISIS took control of Mosul in a day with 500 guys, and the SNA have basically almost completely taken control of Aleppo. The Syrian Arab army, Assad's army's front line just completely collapsed, and the Russians aren't doing anything.
Yeah, I heard Russians were leaving, weren't they?
Yeah, they've left. They're leaving other parts of the front line as well. They might be trying to consolidate and make, in my opinion, if they are going to ever counterattack, the Russians will try and retake the highway to Aleppo, the M5, but it doesn't even look like they're doing that, to be honest, because their air force has barely done anything.
Bit cringe. Bit rip. Sounds like a little big gup. Sorry, I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about this aspect of the Syrian civil war, so I'm just like, what the wait, are people overwhelming the UA map? Is that why?
Why, what's happening?
Bad gateway, Cloudflare? Is that
yeah?
There's a lot of changes right now. That's why
it's just changing a lot. Yeah.
But one thing that's not being brought up about everyone posting about Aleppo right now is that there's a Kurdish majority neighborhood in Aleppo called Sheikh Maksud or Maksud. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Okay.
But it's a Kurdish majority area that's still controlled by the YPG and not Assad, and it has been for years. And it's basically inevitable at this point that the factions taking over Aleppo now are going to ethnically cleanse that entire neighborhood.
Oh.
They're pretty against the YPG. YPG is allied with the PKK, which Turkey really hates.
Okay.
Well, the thing is, the factions that are doing the push are backed by Turkey, and if Turkey orders them to ethnically cleanse them, they will.
What's the YPG's relation with Assad?
An extremely uneasy truce.
Okay.
They've fought with each other before, but
and there's no chance of them getting
helped each other as well.
And there's no chance of these Kurds getting an extremely uneasy truce with the people who are doing with HTS.
I just think it's delusional to think that if they push the regime out of the city, and the Turks are just going to let the YPG enclave live in Aleppo. Of course they're not. Why would they? The Turks' stance hasn't changed. The Syrian National Army, who are also in Aleppo, have openly been saying for the past days, we're going to quote unquote finish the job in Tel Rafat, which is where 100,000 of the refugees from ethnically cleansed Afrin are also staying. So they're just going to get ethnically cleansed again. They're already openly talking about finishing the job. And also, Jolani when he was the head of al-Nusra, issued a fatwa against the Kurds saying you're free to kill and pillage them. I don't know. It's just very, very weird seeing everyone gleefully cheering this on when I know what's going to happen. And it's like everyone's just talking around it and not mentioning it. It's not inevitable.
Alawis are done for. They're not going to get any sympathy from any of the rebel factions, especially Tahrir al-Sham.
Every minority that doesn't just instantly submit in Aleppo is going to get ethnically cleansed. They're already putting up Turkish flags in Aleppo, for sake. Remember, Tel Rafat north of Aleppo is still controlled by the SDF.
They haven't started fighting with the SDF though.
They did last night. They tried to push last night and they got pushed back. But they've already said they're going to try again tonight. And the Turkish foreign minister came out saying how the Kurds are escalating the situation in Tel Rafat and the situation must change to establish peace in the region. Turkish foreign ministry spokesperson today We closely monitor the increase in attacks by the terrorist groups in Tel Rafat and Manbij targeting civilians and Turkey. Obviously, just complete bullshit. The failure to implement agreements with stakeholders to eliminate terrorism in those areas heightens our concerns. We have warned on various international platforms that the recent attacks on Idlib have reached a level that would undermine the spirit and functioning of the Astana agreements and cause serious civilian casualties, and we have noted that these attacks must be stopped. So yeah, they're basically foreshadowing a Turkish approved offensive on Tel Rafat. I've just seen this playbook before. Everyone was cheering for the offensive just before they reached the Afrin. And then when they ethnically cleansed the Afrin of hundreds of thousands of Kurds and massacred them in their homes, all of these people just didn't mention it. They were just quiet.
Do we have any idea what American troops in that region are doing, if anything?
They're not anywhere near Aleppo. There's no Americans anywhere near Aleppo.
They're like on the Iraqi border. That's like the only base there.
Okay.
I was about to ask you, comrade. Do you know if there's any holdouts with the NATO troops, especially British troops in the area anymore? Have they been helping with the intel on the area, or are they not affiliated at all with this push?
No, they're on the eastern side of Rojava. They've not got nothing to do with Aleppo.
Oh, okay.
By the way, there's some very clever propaganda going around right now. Be very careful. People are spreading a bunch of fake images of blown up radios and claiming that Israel blew up a bunch of the radios of the Syrian Arab army in Aleppo. That didn't happen.
I mean, it's nothing new because the Arabs will always blame Israel. Right now, both fighting factions are blaming Israel.
Yeah, literally, yeah. Which is hilarious considering basically Russia literally has an agreement with Israel that they'll let them bomb Assad as long as they don't hit any Russian targets. Honestly, the opposition is more anti-Israel than Assad is, but so it's stupid propaganda to anyone that knows anything about any of the factions at all. But if there's any Alawites left in the city, they need to get the out of there as soon as possible. I follow a lot of the Telegram channels, and they've already posted videos of them beheading Alawites in Aleppo.
They're doing that now.
Yeah, well, I saw one video yesterday, and I've seen 3 videos today of it happening.
Not good.
They were soldiers, but they're still beheading them while they're alive and posting videos of it.
There are reports that they're targeting civilians as well.
A lot of the ISIS leadership are currently living perfectly safely in SNA-controlled Syria. It's surely just a coincidence that every leader of ISIS has been in Turkish-controlled Syria, right? Surely just an accident that every single time there's a major ISIS attack against Rojava, the Turks pitch in at the same time and drop a bunch of airstrikes to distract them, or that weapons with serial numbers that were provedly provided to the SNA by Turkey just keep showing up in the hands of ISIS.
Isn't the current ISIS in Syria actually in the thousands? It's 3,000 max.
It's hard to put a number on that because there's maybe a few hundred active fighters, but then there'll be hundreds more people that are doing other things, propaganda, financing, all sorts of other stuff, smuggling. Do you count them as fighters? I wouldn't, but they're still ISIS.
Wow.
I still think you underestimate how Hayat Tahrir al-Sham has moderated.
There's no reason I should trust them with anything. The leader was Al-Qaeda's top man in Syria.
That is true, but he has pushed for the organization to moderate and to cut ties with Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
He pushed for that, and then he participated in ethnically cleansing hundreds of thousands of Kurds from Afrin. So I don't really care. He
to be fair, also the secular.
All he wants.
I'm not calling him good, mind you.
I'm not saying that, but he can claim that he's moderating all he likes when their actions say different. Their words don't mean anything if their actions don't match it up. I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it.
The gist is that Assad's a really bad dude. Some of his enemies are also quite bad dudes, and although it might be good to see Assad losing power in some areas. The problem is that because of the complexity of the conflict, Assad has been able to maintain unsteady truces with certain groups who will be less safe under Assad's enemies, even if Assad's enemies are not as bad as Assad.
Yeah, basically, yeah. You smashed it. Yeah.
Smashed it. You know, I'm familiar with the region, you know, it's nothing. So, did some stuff in the day, did some reading, did some vibing, went to a cafe, had pancakes, and then I come home and I look at the live UA map and I'm like, wait, this isn't the same. So Aleppo has just been completely railed. It's like World War II, isn't it? One wanker comes this way, one wanker comes this way, and they're going towards Hama and Homs. Where's the Axis, bro? Where's the resistance? What do they do? We got Team Green over here. Team Yellow coming in strong. Team Red, bad day for Team Red. Very bad day. Team Green taking the cake. Just to the map. Any changes? Wait, am I wrong? Wait, just to double check. Was this part of Hama? Is this new? I think Hama's done and they're going for Homs. There is fighting in Damascus, but I don't think that's rebels. The fighting in Damascus seems to be internal. Syrian Republican Guard and the 4th Division. Iraqi Prime Minister Sednaya affirms in a call with Bashar al-Assad his country's commitment to Syria's stability. Okay. Is this the counteroffensive? I'm guessing the big worry for some people is that some of these rebel groups haven't always had the best reputation, to say it lightly. And I think isn't the worry now that there are minorities who were a bit safer under Assad might be not very safe under these guys? Is that one of the memes? The f is happening in Syria? Are Assad's forces suddenly losing their grip on security in Syria? That's a really good question, DW. 14 hours ago, why didn't they get me on? I could have said, yeah, they are. 15 minutes to figure out that one. Okay, right. Okay, tell you what, I'm going to have my doc up. And obviously, if this were Israel-Palestine, I didn't know shit. I'd probably ask a friend to be like, where do we start? Do we start in 1917? And they'd be like, yeah, 1917. Yeah. The colonization of Palestine. And then a Jew comes flying in a paraglider and says, no, go back to 1881, dick. Actually, go back 3,000 years. I'm like, whoa. So we need more of that. We need some discourse. We need some people scrapping with each other over what's important and what's not. So we can get a balanced, both sides. In Syria's case, it's all 6 sides, all 17. We will come out of this knowing which side to root for, okay? Okay, Syria. Syria's a big country, okay? It's complicated. You think Israel-Palestine was complicated? Mate. I think the French initially wanted Syria to be 4 different regions because that's how they took it. That's how they picked it up from the Ottoman Empire. But it very quickly became its whole thing. It used to be like the region or the Sanjak or whatever of like Homs and Hama, and then there was Damascus, and then up here. But this is Syria, okay? In 2011, there were these big protests all over the Arab world called the Arab Spring. Some countries handle it better than others. Ironically, the countries that seemed to handle it the best and didn't really get scratched by it were the monarchies. The Emirates, Saudi, Oman, Qatar, Jordan. But countries that have more nominally secular dictatorships or secular leaders or even people who fancy themselves socialists, like Baathists, people like Saddam Hussein or Bashar al-Assad in Syria, they had Assad had a hard time, okay? They resorted to crackdowns pretty early on, even when protesters were still being peaceful. They ended up having to get Hezbollah to help them. That's a whole different thing. One of Assad's measures, which I think is quite important to the last 10 years, was that whilst he was cracking down on protesters and arresting a bunch of people for being often peaceful, he also did a prisoner's release, which people argue over why he did that. A lot of people seem to believe that he did it because he wanted to sort of throw a few rotten apples into the crowd, because it's turned out that quite a lot of those people that he released in that presidential decree were terrorists, people who had done horrible things, who were very extreme, who were very like Sunni extremist Muslims. And a few of the people who Assad released during those 2011 protests ended up forming ISIS, ended up leading a bunch of other wacky organizations in Syria. So on the other end, when Assad was on the back foot in around 2012-13, when there was a lot more fighting and rebels were starting to make some kinds of advances, Assad got some help. one of the parties that gave him quite a lot of help was Hezbollah, because Assad and Hezbollah both have a nice little friendship with Iran. Iran is the reason that Hezbollah are able to get weapons imported from Damascus into Lebanon, into the Bekaa. So Hezbollah sends a bunch of troops into Syria. They rescue Assad, arguably. They become crucial to Assad's survival. They helped Assad train up his army. They helped Assad plug logistical and like crucial gaps. They helped them to carry out sieges, like sieges where you literally just say surrender or starve. There was an occasion where Assad resorted to chemical weapons more than once. One of the reasons we actually know for sure that one of those chemical weapon attacks happened is because of an intercepted communication between someone from Hezbollah who was on the ground and Iran. That's actually one of the confirmations for chemical weapon use. So the war gets pretty mental. This map has changed drastically over the years. You've had ISIS, who took a huge swathe of here and like parts of northern Iraq. You've had the Kurds, who are around up here. You've had right now you've got the extremist, or people who are described as the extremist Sunni Islamists, and a bunch of different factions over here. You've got, I guess, the Americans and those guys over here, and a few Syrian allies of America. The Russians have been involved throughout all this. The Russians have been pretty crucial. The Wagner Group and everyone else have been quite crucial to helping Assad. And this is the map that we were left with for quite a while, as far as I know. I think Aleppo was captured by Assad quite a few years ago, and the conflict never really ended. I think these gray parts are still ISIS pockets. So generally, being very rough here, we have this area here, which is led by, all these places have so many factions, but I think the main faction here is the Syrian, the Syrian Democratic Forces. They're led by Kurds. They're probably the most, or one of the most friendly groups to the United States and to the West. Here you've got what's called, at least that's one group, as well as a bunch of other, some call it the Free Syrian Army. You got a bunch of other Syrian forces here that are largely associated with the more like radical Sunni Islam, because that's Assad's whole thing. Assad's whole thing is that he will justify all of his acts and all of his coercion on the grounds that he is saving Syria and Syrian minorities from extremist Sunni Islam, right? So there is a bit of debate about how much these groups have moderated over the years and how varied the factions are. But anyway, a couple of days ago, they launched this very, very massive offensive into Aleppo, which is one of the largest cities in Syria. And now it's done. They fell like a house of cards in a matter of days. So you've also got the Syrian Democratic Forces over on this side. And now they're thrusting all the way down to Hama. And they've taken Hama, more or less. And they're also actually quite close to Homs, another major city in Syria. The capital, Damascus, is down here. I don't think it's confirmed, at least since I last checked, I don't think it's confirmed where Assad is right now. Last I heard, he was in Russia. But I don't actually know if he's back in Damascus now, because things are changing so fast. So Assad is very unpopular. Everyone hates him. He's a very bad guy. Very, very bad guy. The argument that's coming on the other end is that these guys in the green, the Islamists, are not great guys either. And one of the fears that's coming around now is that these guys might actually threaten certain minority groups, particularly the Alawites, who were otherwise kept safe under Assad, more or less. People dispute that. People say that these guys have moderated over the years. Other people say, well, they've said they've moderated over the years, but then they would also do this, and this. So, who knows? Who knows? Anyway. Let's get some other people to talk about it. Anything wrong? Any gaps to plug in that explanation?
Honestly, it's going better than I thought it would be going.
Yeah.
Basically,
just to remind everyone, you're someone who actually fought in Syria, right? You were alongside the Kurds in Jerzara. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. But basically, so obviously last night, as you remember, HTS took Aleppo basically, and now they've started going south from their stronghold in Idlib towards Homs, and they're probably going to take Hama tonight. The Syrian Arab Army is just basically in full retreat. But interestingly, what happened with the Kurds and the SDF, which is the basically the military of Rojava, obviously they'd been sending reinforcements to their enclaves in Aleppo city and just north of Aleppo, Tel Rafat. in the early hours this morning, I'd say like 6 a.m.-ish, they basically breached the regime front lines next to Manbij and basically forced their way through regime territory and established a land bridge from SDF-controlled Manbij all the way to Aleppo. And I was initially thinking, okay, cool, now the fighting is about to start in Aleppo between the Kurds and HTS. But it seems like for the time being, the SDF and HTS in Aleppo have come to some sort of an agreement that they'll basically just leave each other alone. I know that for a fact that a lot of the Christians and Alawis have fled from HTS-held areas of Aleppo to Kurdish-held areas because they're kind of worried about, some of the guys in HTS. They're not exactly friendly to Kurds and Alawis.
Explain the Alawites and their relationship to Assad.
Basically, Assad is an Alawite and his family are Alawites, and throughout their dictatorship, they have got a lot of the Alawite community in Syria directly involved in the government. A lot of them work in the government, not necessarily in the military, but just in the government in general. And because of that, they're more often than not supporters of Assad. And because of that, a lot of the especially jihadist fighters in Syria really, really, really hate Alawites and have committed atrocities against them since like the war ever first started, basically. So a lot of them are justifiably scared of living under any rebel occupation.
If you don't know what an Alawite is, by the way, they're a Shia sect that's pretty concentrated in the south for Syria. They're a minority in the country, of course, but right now, as Comrade said, they pretty much run the country.
When you say Shiite sect, I know some people say that the origin of the Druze was from Shia Islam, but obviously the Druze don't identify as Shiites anymore. They don't identify as Muslims. Do the Alawites still identify as Shiites or Muslims?
Yeah, absolutely. They consider themselves Muslim.
Obviously, like the mainstream opposition opinion is just that they're just Shiites, but the more radical elements will not even think that they're Muslims.
What is, so we know the general ideology of the extremist Sunnis, like the Sunni Islamists. What's the ideology of the Syrian Democratic Forces?
It's called Democratic Confederalism. Basically, what happened was the PKK, which started originally as a Marxist organization of Kurds in Turkey that wanted a Marxist Turkish state, their main theorist, Abdullah Öcalan, in the 80s to 90s, changed his ideological perspective and kind of, with the help of other PKK-like theorist people, form their own ideology, borrowing heavily from Bakhtin, which is essentially a commune system built on direct democracy. Obviously, they're anti-capitalist as well. So they're like anti-state, direct democracy, and anti-capitalist, essentially. And they're very, very, very feminist. That's like a core part of their belief system.
That's like why Rojava, you always saw those pictures of women like with guns, right?
Yeah. With any institution in Rojava that has power behind it, there has to be an equal man and woman position. There has to be co-rulers between men and women in basically every institution that holds a modicum of power, basically.
Okay. Wait, and that's this whole area, or are there not other factions that rule this area?
Wait, hold on. I'm not looking at
the
screen.
yellow.
What area?
He's looking at the
The yellow is all Rojava, yeah.
Okay. So these guys don't want a state, you're saying?
No. Their goal is actually a federal Syria. They agree to negotiate with anyone.
Yeah, their goal in Syria is a federalized Syria where the Kurds and other ethnic minorities have a lot of their own autonomy. They move past wanting a separate state because they don't see the state as anything useful. They're anti-statist. So they would want like a decentralized, federalized system, basically, in all of Syria.
So if the Islamists manage to grab like quite a lot of territory from the regime, is there hope of these guys that there'll just be some agreement where they get to become like an autonomous region in whatever new Syrian government these guys have?
Yeah, probably. HTS, led by Jolani, they are much more likely to make a deal like that with the SDF than the SNA are, because even though HTS is backed by Turkey, they're not completely beholden to Turkey. The SNA, on the other hand, are basically just Turkey's bitch. Like the Turkey pays all of their salaries for all their fighters. They train them in Turkey. They even house them like give them houses to live in Turkey. Turkey sends them to other conflicts around the world that they fight in. They would never sign an agreement with any Kurdish authority.
The SDF forces in one side over here of Aleppo, and then the HTS and the rest of it. What is this an agreement? Are they just not going to fight each other, or what's their relationship?
Yes, they've made an agreement that they're basically going to stay out of each other's way and focus on the regime.
It's a good old non-aggression pact.
Basically, yeah.
Basically.
So Aleppo is Poland
However,
right now.
Basically, but you have to remember though, with that agreement only covers HTS. The Syrian National Army, the Turkish proxy, will still fight Rojava regardless of any agreement HTS has with them.
Okay, the Syrian National Army, are they part of this green section then?
The dark green one is HTS. The light green is SNA.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And they have probably even less sway against like their backer than Hezbollah does with Iran, because like obviously Iran props up Hezbollah, but like Hezbollah has its own power. The SNA would barely function without Turkish backing.
Right. So let's just summarize. What's Turkey's interest in this whole thing been now and over time, if it's changed?
Turkey's interest is like they don't like Assad, but they're also very, very, very willing to work with Assad. So Assad's not their main goal. Their main goal is basically an ethnic cleansing campaign against the Kurds, and they've stated openly as much. Like Erdogan's main proposal when he first started launching offensive into Kurdish areas in Syria in 2018 to the UN was literally that they'd ethnically cleanse like a 30-kilometer wide strip of the border between the Kurdish areas of Syria and Turkey, replace the entire Kurdish population, and move all the Arab refugees in Turkey into the Kurdish areas.
Okay,
like,
and that's a bad thing, right?
Well, yeah, the open plan is literally just genocide. But like they said so much. They literally just said like, yeah, this is what we're going to do at the UN.
Wow. Oh, good. Okay, so what is Hezbollah's what's the ceasefire in Lebanon have to do with any of this? Or is there any expectation that Hezbollah might come to Assad's aid, or is he more likely? Are they more likely to just stay in Lebanon and rebuild?
He should. Well, no, they should do really. They should help Assad because Syria is critical for getting weapons and anything from Iran into Lebanon. Like I would be mind blown if Hezbollah just sits back and watch Assad get crushed. Well, they're gonna have to because the Syrian Arab Army, Assad's army, is in complete disarray. The Russians have their only warm water naval base in the Mediterranean in Tartus, and that if the HTS take Hama and Homs, that will be cut off, and that will be a disaster for the Russians.
Yeah, because if they get Hama and Homs, that's the coast, right? The coast is gone.
No. Yeah, they cut off the coast, but they're not gonna go for Latakia. Latakia is protected by mountains right now. Yeah,
Latakia was always like one of the most frozen parts of the front line throughout the whole war because the terrain's just horrible to fight in.
Do we know anything about Iran's situation right now regarding this?
As far as I know, the Iranians are basically just panicking, and they requested meetings with the foreign ministers of Turkey and Russia. Apparently, some IRGC general's going to be landing in Damascus like tomorrow. But fucking hell, man, they've got a massive
about the IRGC leader in the country, Syria, actually got.
The main guy, the main IRGC commander in charge of the northern front got shwacked like on the second day. But also, we've just talked about the north so far. In the south, in places that border Jordan, there's basically an uprising of former rebels happening in cities in Dara and Saweda right now. And basically, in Saweda and Dara, they were always very pro-revolution and fought for years on that front against Assad. Eventually, when Assad took the south back over, there was basically an agreement that the rebels would lay down their arms. However, most of these rebels just stayed like semi-active and underground, and as far as I know tonight, most of them have picked their weapons back up again. The south is very pro-rebel. That area of the south is very pro-rebel.
Most of the south is Sunni, actually.
But
yeah, that part of the south is very pro-rebel. But obviously, when you get into areas that border Lebanon in the south, like Damascus, that there's a lot of Alawis and Shias living there.
Yeah, so Damascus is obviously still a very different story to coming through Homs and Hama, right?
I mean, Damascus is like split 50-50. Like, you got to remember as well, like Damascus was being fought over in the war for the first few years of the war, extremely hard. There was like heavy battles inside Damascus for years. So there's probably, and in fact, it's even confirmed there are rebel sleeper cells being activated in Damascus tonight that are fighting with the army.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
The Russians as well are panicking. They've fled almost all of their bases. That is bordering any of the active fronts right now, and even further away. The Russians even fled their bases in Deir ez-Zor that are bordering the SDF.
They're afraid of the SDF right now.
The SDF literally seized regime-held territory to create the land bridge to Aleppo. To be honest, I would not be surprised if we see the SDF advance on the regime in the south, in Deir ez-Zor. What a lot of people are ignoring right now, in the Badia Desert, in like the southern desert where Assad controls, that's where ISIS has the most presence, and they've been suspiciously quiet during this whole thing. They'll be getting active pretty soon, I guarantee. I would put money on HTS taking Hama tonight and moving on Homs tomorrow.
Do you think they're gonna come from Iraq to help Assad?
The reason I think they haven't sent a lot of the Iraqi militias in through the border into Syria is because, one, there's a very good chance that they'll just get bombed at the checkpoint by either the US or maybe even Israel, because they've done that in the past. And if they sent a bunch of their Iraqi militias into Syria and Syria falls and all those guys get captured or die, then Iran might start losing its hold on Iraq as well.
So that's like a double whammy for them, both Syria
Exactly.
and Iraq.
The Iranians are in a very, very precarious position right now. The Druze, a lot of them are in the south near Jordan, in Suwaida and Dara. A lot of those guys are picking up their guns again to fight against the regime.
Wow. What's Israel doing in relation to all this?
Probably just sitting back and eating popcorn and laughing.
Maybe makes sense. You think Israel will bomb Hezbollah as they go into Syria?
Yeah, why not? Right?
Why
It's
not?
free game. It's not like it's part of the ceasefire agreement. Once they're in Syria,
Yeah, and it's not like they have to. It's not
want.
like they're going to be in underneath people's houses over there.
Exactly. They'll be on roads and highways moving in convoys, which is like the perfect time to bomb them.
Oh god.
So that might honestly be why Hezbollah hasn't sent many guys to Syria yet, because they're worried about getting bombed as soon as they cross the border. If it continues at this pace, I think Assad's actually done for. If it continues at this pace.
Wow. What does it mean for Ukraine now that Russia's involved?
It's good for Ukraine, I guess, because the Russians getting kicked out of Syria, and that diminishes a lot of their power in the Middle East and Africa. So yeah, it's just genuinely good for them.
Bad day for the axis of resistance, my guys. That's where I am.
Yeah, they get their shit pushed in.
By the way, even if Russia completely says it and takes back all their troops for Ukraine, it wouldn't make any difference. Like, they're just completely
there's too much momentum. There's just too much momentum.
If you're talking about these guys being like Sunni extremists or Salafists, right? Obviously, Hamas are Sunni extremists. Is there any indication of what the HTS where they'd be aligning internationally, at least with the Gulf states or anything like that? Or?
Oh, they're incredibly anti-Israel. Like, they're stupidly anti-Israel. Like, they hate Israel.
Apparently, Jolani is named after the Golan Heights.
Yeah, he's from there. I think. Yeah. I think he's from there, or he's from Damascus.
But he's also a bit more of a pragmatist. If he survived this long,
yeah, he's
very smart.
Very pragmatic. When ISIS was still the Al Qaeda affiliate in Iraq, Baghdadi sent Jolani to Syria to create the Al Qaeda affiliate in Syria. But then when ISIS got powerful enough and they broke away from Al Qaeda and became independent, Jolani stayed loyal to Al Qaeda and basically joined the Al Qaeda ISIS war on the side of Al Qaeda. And then the Turks approached him and basically said, hey, if you like break off your alliance with Al Qaeda, we'll fund you instead. So he did that.
Okay. The impression I'm getting is that there was the president when they declare independence. That president was overthrown after the 48 war because the chief of staff was butt mad about losing the war. Then that chief of staff is overthrown because of a power vacuum, because he loses allies. And then the guy who overthrows him is overthrown by Shishikli, who shares power with Al-Attasi. And then in 51, who helped the guy get in power from the last coup, overthrows the guy that he helped. And then that's chill until 54.
Yeah.
Okay. And then in
Yeah,
54,
but like
there's a
keep in
coup by...
mind that he actually introduced some reforms that were popular. He was not really like a leader that was hated, despite doing some, let's say, questionable acts, especially against his previous comrades and against the Druze. But like he attempted to actually make some sort of democratic reforms. He separated the military from the state functions. Like he was chill relatively to the other people. His harshest critique I heard was that he was heavy-handed against the Druze, especially because the Druze at the time were led by Sultan Atrash, who was like a saint in Syria. Everybody loves him.
Hang on, so Shukri al-Kuwatli, why do they say he was the first president of post... Oh my God, wait, what the...
Just...
So he came back in 55, did he?
Yeah. Look, they keep getting kicked and they keep
musical
returning
okay,
until
yeah.
somebody...
Okay.
That's the pattern you will see. They will get kicked out, they will return, somebody kicks them, somebody else comes in, he's kicked out, he returns, somebody kicks him. That's what always happens in Syria.
Okay, because he was the first president who lost the 48 war. Was he...
Yeah.
Did he join the Ba'ath Party or he was... No, National... Okay.
No, he did not. Yeah, you will also find a pattern where many of the presidents and prime ministers are only ceremonial, and there's like a back show party that's running the show, mostly the Ba'ath Party.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, it seems like the president is just kind of symbolic for a lot of it, and then the military is doing everything else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Okay, that's good. Okay, that makes sense, because I'm guessing as soon as we get into the whatever the Ba'ath coup, I'm guessing things get a lot more stable, right? At 63, right?
Sure, buddy.
I mean, in terms of who's president.
Nah, not really.
What? When did Hafez come in?
Buddy, Hafez made a coup within the Ba'ath Party. It was already the Ba'ath Party at the time.
Okay. Oh, so after 63, there's another coup. When did Hafez become president?
In 1971.
Okay,
During
so,
like
okay. So the bit of instability in the Ba'ath Party, and then we've got Hafez. Okay.
Yeah. A bit of instability is an understatement. It was practically a civil war.
Nice. Okay.
A cold civil war.
Cool. Good.
Yeah.
The SDF just opened a new front against the regime in Deir ez-Zor. Like I said, they probably...
I thought you were going to come out to us with valuable news. Yes. All right. Let's see. Is it on the map?
It's probably not on live UA map at the minute because they're very behind. But I'll send you... hold on.
Live UA map's behind. Wait, where did they open a new front?
In Deir ez-Zor in the south.
Oh, really? The place
The actual... Who opened what front?
The SDF.
The SDF, the SDF. Basically, what happened was the Russians pulled out from Deir ez-Zor yesterday, and there's been a lot of rumors in like the kind of Kurdish and SDF space that there's going to be an offensive by the SDF, especially the Arab militias within the SDF, over into Deir ez-Zor, and now it's started.
I wonder how the Marxist Leninists are feeling about this, because it must be quite difficult. It must be quite difficult to comment on the Syrian civil war because how do you know what portion of people in your audience are Assadists? You might not know. You might not want to know. My guess is they just won't care. Like, they're just not going to talk about it that much. I did see this. This guy makes this tweet saying, you don't need to support Assad to realize his critical role in maintaining Syria's integrity and political independence, brackets, against Western colonialism and theft. You can even hate Assad and still see that. Like, what does that mean? Again, if you fight the West, you're good. You're good in our books. Always prescient. This is the UN Special Rapporteur for the occupied Palestinian territories. Hello, Spider.
I'm gonna ask him like basic questions as a Westerner, all right?
All right.
So let's say if he's gone, would it still be? It's still going to be unstable, no?
Syria?
Yeah. All right.
Probably. So you would have. It depends on who gets what area. There's the SDF, who the West are a lot more friendly with, and then there's the Islamists, who are a lot more friendly with, like, I guess, extremist Sunni Islam. I don't know. It's hard to say because I think so far the SDF and HTS have a general understanding that they wouldn't fight with each other over land, generally, if they don't step on each other's toes. The other problem, though, is we don't really know what HTS would do to certain minorities, like the Alawite minorities in the southern areas. We also have no idea what they would do with regards to Israel. Like Assad hasn't done all that much with Israel recently, but we don't know what HTS would do. They probably wouldn't. They wouldn't give arms to Hezbollah because they hate them. But they have said, Jolani and all that have said that they would also take the fight to Zionism and probably do a better job of it than Assad. So I don't know.
Was there any like other Middle Eastern countries that was like a hotbed for like other Sunni and Shia groups or militias?
For Sunni
Or
extremists, so
extremists?
Iraq still kind of was, and that was largely to do with Syria allowing people to go back and forth. And I don't think
Was
the
that
Iraq
like
war helped that much as well.
was it the after effect when Saddam Hussein fell, or
Was it the what?
was it after like Saddam like fell off?
I can't remember exactly when it started, but when Saddam, definitely after Saddam fell, one of the problems that the West had with Assad, whilst they were occasionally trying to create diplomatic relations, they would generally say that Syria's big problem was that they were supporting terror groups like Hezbollah, but they were also failing to stop extremist militants from crossing from Syria into Iraq. That was in 2004, I think America made that complaint, and they sanctioned Syria for it. Because a lot of Sunni extremists in Syria were, throughout the kind of like mid-2000s up until 2010, 11, 12, were able to get into Iraq because they were allowed free passage by Syria. And it even seems that there were people who were close to Assad, like family members or government members, who were allowing them the ability to achieve, to gain like false passports and to train and things like that. So it was like kind of not only turning a blind eye, but also in some cases just helping them do it.
I think Syria might do like fall of the Soviet Union 2.0. It's gonna break up into different states. Well, I say states or countries. Like different militia groups take that piece of chunk. You know,
Maybe
the Kurds and yeah.
I mean, Syria is a pretty multicultural country, and I think when the French took it over, their initial advice was to go into something similar to the Ottoman system, where they had it divided into a few different, like semi-independent or a few different states. So they wanted more or less like this. They wanted the state of Aleppo up here. They wanted Damascus here. They wanted a separate place for the Alawites and at the coast, a separate Druze state. But then a lot of Arab nationalists had this opinion of like Greater Syria. That was what they aspired to. So they just made it all into one country. But you can even see here, the maps they're not too different in terms of the divides, but obviously Aleppo is now with the Islamists, and the north here is in the hands of Turkish-backed groups. But yeah, I can't see any resolution happening between the Islamists and the SDF. I imagine some of them will just keep whatever they have.
And the SDF is backed by the Turkish coalition, right?
The SDF is the Kurds. They're led by Kurds. They're not backed by
Oh,
Turkey
the
or anything,
Kurds.
yeah.
Wait, then what's the YPG then?
What's the YPG? How do you... Okay. I need someone else to explain this for me. I can tell you a little bit, but it's not going to go far enough. Listen.
Bro, it sounds like him.
Hi.
Hello.
Yo,
We're talking about the
Lono,
SNA and the Kurds right now.
yeah, basically, you know the main Turkish proxy in Syria, the SNA.
They're the ones up in the light green up here, right?
Yeah, they're basically right now trying to ethnically cleanse about 200,000 Kurds from Tel Rafah.
Right now, like on the ground.
Yeah, right now. Yeah.
Okay, where's Tel Rafah?
Most of them are going for
It's
Aleppo.
it's the Kurdish enclave north of Aleppo city.
Yes.
North of Aleppo.
Yes, north of Aleppo city.
You see you see the map with a lot of flags.
It's covered in
up
green
north, yeah.
flags right now, which isn't accurate. Like on live map, they say it's completely controlled by the SNA, which isn't accurate. Basically, what's happening right now is the SDF is still clashing with the SNA in Tel Rafah, and the SDF is basically evacuating around 200,000-ish of Kurds out of Tel Rafah through Aleppo city and then into Raqqa and Takba in Rojava.
Okay.
There are
The
kilometers.
HGS isn't helping either. Apparently, they've been cutting off water and electricity to the neighborhoods the Kurds live in.
Yeah, by the way, in Aleppo city, the HGS have basically gave the SDF an ultimatum to leave the neighborhoods that the Kurds live in, which the SDF obviously rejected. They're never going to let Kurds live under a faction that's backed by Turkey. And after that, just coincidentally, all the water and food stopped being allowed into Sheikh Maksud, the Kurdish area.
Okay.
So they're essentially sieging the Kurds in Aleppo city.
And is there much chance of are they giving the Kurds an opportunity to leave? Is that what they're trying to, you said ethnic cleansing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, in Aleppo, it's two different situations. In Aleppo city,
HTS is trying to say if the SDF leaves, we'll treat the Kurds fine, but the Kurds will never trust any faction backed by Turkey to deal with the civilians well. In Tel Rafat, the SNA are just ethnically cleansing them and bragging about it on social media. Like, they have videoed themselves beating Kurdish civilians. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights have already confirmed that they're beheading Kurdish civilians. Like, yeah, they're like, the SNA's job at this point is to just Kurds. They're not even fighting the regime.
Okay. So
they've been saying a lot that they want to connect with the HTS front, but ever since they actually connected, they haven't been doing anything but bother the SDF with like clashes.
Is there any like line that the Turks are going to accept? Is it going to be a case where you're just going to have the Kurds in all these dangerous areas, like ending up either dying or leaving, and then you just have some kind of like line in the sand between the two groups where they don't fight each other, or do the Turks just want them gone everywhere?
No, because if you look at the green rectangle from that sticks out from the Turkish border into the middle of Rojava, they want an area that wide along the entire Rojava Turkish border to be ethnically cleansed of all the Kurds there. And if they ever completed that, if they ever managed that, why wouldn't they just keep going?
Yeah.
So the Kurds can't like really get like their own independent country, right? Like get to go through the UN process and get like go internationally, stuff like that, right? Like same thing for like
all the states in the region, none of the states in the region want any of the Kurds to be independent, because that means the Kurds in their countries are going to seek independence as well. So,
okay, to be fair, the SDF in Syria don't even want a state; they want a federal state.
Yeah, they don't even advocate for a state. They want an autonomous region in a federalized Syria. Like they're not even asking for a separate state at this point.
Why would they trust whoever takes over after Assad to do that for them? Why would they? So if HTS takes on a federal state with you guys,
it depends, right? Because the way it looks is that HTS, if Assad did get toppled, it would be Jolani and HTS in power. And because the HTS are a lot more independent from Turkey, they can probably strike a deal with them. Or if the SNA were in power, they could never strike a deal with them if they're in power.
So it seems like the SDF would rather live as an autonomous region in a federal Syria, even if HTS are at the helm, rather than an independent state. Why? Because they don't like states?
Their ideology doesn't advocate for a state. And to be fair, I don't think they're even that close to the Kurdish in Iraq. They always advocated since the start of the war, since they actually had a position to advocate for anything and have any negotiations to have their own autonomous region.
It's not that the SDF trusts whoever takes power and by toppling Assad to give them an autonomous region. It's that they know that whoever takes power will have to negotiate with them because they have the military strength to demand that negotiation, essentially.
Okay.
Like for example, if the SDF didn't have to have a two-front war with the regime and the SNA, they would crush any faction by itself. Like, so for example, if the SDF, I don't know, if the SDF wasn't fighting the SNA right now, they probably would have swept the eastern desert of regime territory by now, because that's what the plan originally was. From guys I'm talking to on the ground, they were being told, they were being sent to Raqqa and Deir ez-Zor, basically saying, yeah, we're going to push the regime out of all of the east, and then they had to deal with the SNA attempting to ethnically cleanse all the Kurds out of Tel Rafat, so that had to be put on pause.
Okay. Is the SNA, sorry, just to double check, the SNA is what used to be called the Free Syrian Army?
Well, not really. Like, the Free Syrian Army was never a specific group. The Free Syrian Army is just kind of originally it was basically just any of the opposition groups. But then it's complicated because Syria used to have like 300 different militias in it.
Seems to be a contradiction here, because on the one hand, you're saying Israel's responsible for the security of humanitarian delivery in Gaza. And the other hand, the UN will not accept IDF-provided security to these convoys. So I'm not sure how you reconcile that.
I think we reconcile it by trying to find the way to keep our people and
the thing they're talking about here is Article 38 of the 4th Geneva Convention, which is it's the occupying party's duty to assist the movement of humanitarian aid. Blah, blah, blah,
the community as safe as possible. Okay, on that note.
What the was that answer?
For the security of humanitarian delivery in Gaza. And the other hand, the UN will not accept IDF-provided security to these convoys. So I'm not sure how you reconcile that.
I think we reconcile it by trying to find the way to keep our people and the community as safe as possible. Okay, on that note.
What the does that mean? I guess it's a difficult situation, isn't it?
I was just wondering, given the UN's big role in Gaza, UNRWA, the role it's played in humanitarian efforts, has there ever been any indication to the UN that tunnels are being built under the city?
Not to us. I mean, it seems to me that all this infrastructure was built in a highly secretive way. I mean, I see it as an observer. So, I mean, it's to think that the UN had any understanding of what was, any information about those operations, I think is clearly the answer to that.
Why would you say that?
في اللحظات الحرجة والصعبة تخلت عنا أمته ودعمتنا إيران بالسلاح والعتاد والخبرات. لدينا اليوم مئات الكيلومترات أنفاق تحت الأرض. لدينا مئات كثيرة من غرف التحكم والسيطرة والقيادة وفوق. لدينا مئات وآلاف الكمائن التي عدوه أن يدخل إلى قطاع غزة فسيخرج له أبناؤنا. ستخرجون أنتم وإخوانكم من باطن الأرض. ستتفتق الأرض برجالنا بشبابنا يخرجون لدباباتهم من باطن الأرض بالقذائف المضادة للضروع التي صنعت في قطاع غزة.
Efforts. Has there ever been any indication to the UN that tunnels are being built under the city?
Not to us. I mean, it seems to me that all this infrastructure was built in a highly secretive way. I mean,
لدينا مئات وآلاف الكمائن من غرف التحكم. لدينا اليوم مئات الكيلومترات من الأنفاق. لدينا مئات كثيرة من غرف التحكم والسيطرة والقيادة الأرض وفوق الأرض.
UNRWA, the role it's played in humanitarian efforts. Has there ever been any indication to the UN that tunnels are being built under the city?
Not to us. I mean, it seems to me that all this infrastructure was built in a highly secretive way. I mean, I see it as an observer. So,
I think our guy's clearly not subscribed to the Memory TV memes subreddit. Okay. Bit of a little gut, big gut moment when you show yourself to be a bit of a little pug. Bit of a little pug. This is why when people are like, but the UN report said, like, these are the people writing these reports. Like, come on. All right.
Pay grade.
Hello, Teuton Teuton. Hello.
You're a propagandist for the genocide state of Israel.
Whoa.
Whoa. Hold on, chat. Let it cook.
Let's go.
You act like Zionism is like.
When would a propagandist ever accuse the country that they're propagandizing for of war crimes? Why does that happen?
No, They
don't, do they? Has Eilon Levy ever accused Israel of committing war crimes?
Why do you think the Muslim world is anti-Semitic?
For probably a broad range of reasons.
Israel's actions and Israel saying it does it for Judaism and we represent Jews while they like their brothers and their sisters is a reason why the Muslim world conflates the actions of Israel with Jews and
nope, there's and you don't believe that either. No.
Everybody sees it on their screens when they bomb a hospital, when they.
Right, so wait, hang on. Do you think, sorry, stop. Do you think, you think this is all because of empathy for their fellow Arabs in Palestine? That's why they hate Jews, because Jews claim to do it on behalf of the entire religion?
No,
you don't believe that.
The Israeli government came to do it.
You don't believe that. You don't believe that. You think if this is because of empathy, why does Iran and the Axis support Assad if it's all about empathy for Arabs? Why are they not anti-Assad? How many people have died in that Syrian civil war? 500,000? That's like multitudes more than have died in the entire Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Iran, right? They're the heads of the Axis. And they're supporting Assad.
Crazy.
Hezbollah, they're supporting Assad.
Yes, Hezbollah trying to stop the Houthis, trying to stop genocide and blockading Israel is the same as the UK.
You think the Houthis care about again? Why did the Houthis support Assad? If they care about Arabs, why are they stealing aid from their own people? Why are they robbing their own people of aid?
I think there's a lot of And I don't think Assad is as bad as he is. All these Syrian human rights.
The guy uses chemical weapons? Okay, so you're an Assadist as well. Okay, nice one. Good.
يا اخي ايش قله الذوق بنص الطريق تصف الدبابه النظام ايش هو هيك بنص الطريق تكون ماشي وتعرف لك دبابه بنص الطريق تطلع بي ام بي بنص الطريق والله ما بصير تكون مسرع ماشي بامان دبابه بوجهك ما هيك ما يظبط يا اخي ايش
So true. King just saw people leaving their tanks in the middle of the road. What's he saying? I'm sure it was funny though. Yeah?
It was funny.
What did he say?
He said, who leaves their tank in the middle of the road? What if I'm going at 100 on the road? I'll crash into that. Like that.
Good memes. Okay.
Yeah. He's just making jokes.
Okay. Apparently the rebels are advancing towards Hama again. They've been taking countryside territory for quite a while. This was not filled up like this yesterday, was it? This whole little bit here. Syrian army and allied forces repel an attack by the SDF in Deir ez-Zor countryside. There's a lot more fighting down here.
Yeah, the SDF looks like they're doing an offensive in the southwest towards regime positions.
News of deaths among government forces as a result of targeting a military forced labor feeding vehicle. What the is that? A forced labor feeding vehicle. Interesting. Sounds very anti-imperialist to me. Of a Hezbollah figure and an airstrike on a vehicle on the road to Damascus airport. RIP. Israeli raids. Oh, they were raiding near Al-Qusayr, because I guess this is part of where Hezbollah gets their imports from. If they get rid of the regime, I think the only really possible outcome without the regime there is that of the big ones, HTS takes a big swathe of territory, SDF gets a big swathe, and then they just, every respective persecuted ethnic minority from each side just crosses the border to the other side, and then you just have a big ethnic division happening, and then hopefully that settles things. I don't know.
I think it depends on if the HTS decides to align themselves more towards the US and SDF when it comes to getting control of the country, or tries to pursue closer ties with the SNA and Turkey. Like, it just comes down to if they want to try to accept some degree of autonomy for Kurdish and the Syrian regions, or accept some degree of Turkish control over their government and military. I'm unsure on what they end up doing. They're currently doing some signaling towards doing either at this point. And I think it just comes down to, what the mysterious ex-Al-Qaeda guy decides to go with.
Do you think we're going to end up with basically just what the French recommended 100 years ago? You've got an Alawite area. Obviously not because of the Turkish influence in the northwest, and obviously HTS.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the French did say you should split it in 4. They said that was a good idea.
I can hope for the best and hope the Kurds don't continue to get over by the Turks. But, what can you do about it?
I'm just saying there's a ripe opportunity here for a little Alawite place here, a little Druze place here, big old Sunni place here, and a big old Kurdish led place here. I don't know, just see.
The issue is that a Kurdish place that shares a border with Turkey, and I genuinely cannot name a demographic that borders the Turks that hasn't been genocided by them.
Wow. Turks, bro.
Anyway. Listen, if you give Erdogan a chance to, a Kurd or save himself, he's going to kill the Kurd.
Hasan Gremloe.
Violence is never allowed, sir.
But they were Americans, and they were fighting against, an actual genocide. And they were also really cool, okay? They weren't, destroying supply lines and making my Amazon delivery, just, 4 hours later than it was supposed to be. Okay?
There's no way he's describing the Houthis as making Amazon deliveries 4 hours later. What a white. That the Red Sea is used by quite a lot of different countries. It's a very important shipping route. What you realize that it led to people rising prices because they had to go all the way around Africa instead, and they didn't want to bear that cost, so they passed it on to consumers, quite a few of whom are not in the West. That would have involved people who were getting international trade in Africa or from Asia. It would have affected poor people. Okay. Not to mention Yemenis who live under the Houthis, who could probably use the money that the Houthis get and you have that money spent on things that would help them a little bit more, because obviously their situation's quite fucked right now. And maybe they would like money to be spent on things other than kidnapping sailors. And this guy's like, yeah, but your Amazon delivery. Okay, dude. Wow.
So, bro, you're brown. What the are you doing? Like, why would you ever cut propaganda for these that don't see you as human? What are you doing? That's so sad.
Propaganda for who? America? I want to know what the context is now. Are we really going to act as if this guy is expecting brown people to be a united front? There's no way he meant Israel, which is majority brown. There's no way he... Wait, no. Where's the video? Now, is that racist? Yeah, that's quite racist. Yeah. So he whitewashed the impact of the Houthis' actions in the Red Sea and the impact that it has on people in the third world. He whitewashed that and just said it was Westerners who can't get Amazon deliveries in time. But come on, dude, you're brown. Why are you believing this thing is a brown person? What's he actually responding to here? You're brown. What was said? Let's find out what was said. What is he talking about here? Oh, there's no way they're talking about... Wait. Oh, no. Oh, God. It's not this, is it?
From Yemen, okay? Everyone called, myself included, called Timothy Charlemagne, or Chalamet.
Is that the One Piece one?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, this kid
the
is like,
comparison.
I think he was like 19 at the time when I talked to him, which means that for most of his life, he has withstood genocide, right?
Sure.
Like he is a person whose only experience is like, it's literally like talking to Anne Frank, basically.
Oh, yeah. You know, where's that part of Anne Frank's diary when she was also rating ships? Like, these are things where, again, yes, in one way, Hasan is kind of like this weird hyperbolic individual where, like, he has, like, kind of a point. Both these people are young. They've seen death and destruction their entire life. And you can almost empathize with somebody who is doing a bad thing, is part of a terrible movement, is part of a terrible group that is actually committing crimes. And you can understand why they do it because of the, world that they've lived in. But then to compare it to like Anne Frank, who, again, is a pacifist in comparison, is just insane.
And, okay. And this was Gremloe's response to that.
Violence is never allowed, sir.
But they were Americans, and they were fighting against, an actual genocide. And they were also really cool, okay? They weren't, just...
Wait, Americans? Who's he talking about? Is he talking about the Holocaust? If he's talking about Anne Frank? I'm so confused. What was he talking about? Wait, no, does he think Anne Frank was American? Okay, he's just riffing. This guy's riffing. This guy's white and he's riffing. Okay, World War II? People bombing the Nazis? Is that what he's talking about? Okay, yeah. So he's mentioned Anne Frank and he's mentioned bombing ships and they're talking about America. Okay, yeah. He does not think Anne Frank was America. Okay.
Destroying supply lines and making my Amazon delivery, just 4 hours later than it was.
Okay, yeah. So just completely whitewashing the fact that the Houthi attacks impacted the global economy. It impacted global supply chains. It led to a marginal bump in inflation, which again, to people like us, streamers, doesn't do all that much. But if you're living in the third world and like there are issues, not least of all, if you're living in Yemen, in Houthi territory, where the people who rule you are wasting money on kidnapping Filipino sailors instead of taking care of you, they also over our business quite a bit as a Palestinian in Israel. Yeah, well, definitely don't care about them.
Was supposed to be. Okay, so, all right, let's keep things in perspective, okay?
No, you love that and so do I.
Like, these are things where, again, yes, in one way, Hasan is kind of like this weird hyperbolic individual where, like, he has, like, kind of a point. Both these people are young.
So, bro, you're brown. What the are you doing? Like, why would you ever cut propaganda for these that don't see you as human? What are you doing?
Yeah,
doing?
So he is talking about Israel. This is talking about the Houthi attacks on ships, and I think Gremloe probably thinks that every ship that got attacked was vital to Israel. It was like an Israeli ship with Israeli goods, with Israeli sailors, apparently, because that's probably what he's consumed. And Mutahar's background, I think, is Indian. He lives in Canada. You know what? One of the funniest things I was told when we were going into the West Bank was our Korean cameraman was told that, yeah, when we go here, like there's a chance the Palestinians will be racist to you. And like, you know, some kids were doing like racist like China noises and shit like that. And then like the Orthodox Jews at the Kotel were kind of the same. Imagine thinking that like, bro, do you know what the Arab world is like for Indians? Do you know what the Arab world does to Indians? Like, do you know Indians and Pakistanis, like what the shit that they deal with in the Emirates, where they're basically like second class citizens, and some of them live as like basically slaves to keep that economy propped up. Same with Qatar, same with like Kuwait, Bahrain, Oman. And he's also saying that what you're brown. That's why would you side with Israel, which is why would you say, I guess, Israeli Jews? Because Israeli Jews are mostly brown. They're mostly Mizrahi. They're from the Middle East and North Africa. Bub. Holy. What an insane clip. How can you say that? I'm sure they love their brown brothers. I don't. Israel likes India. Israel and India are best buddies. They are like, India is embarrassingly friendly towards Israel. Remember this? Remember the meme? Remember? I was there. India is an Israel glazer. Sorry to say, but Israelis don't treat Indians well, just like Arabs don't. Yeah, that's not surprising. I don't know, but it's not on the grounds of brownness. It's not like, oh, we don't like you because you're brown. Yeah, like you'll have brown Israelis or brown Palestinians who are mean to brown Indians, or brown Emiratis who are mean to brown Indians. It's like, okay, why do they use a lion and not a tiger? Because this is propaganda, I think. That's probably why. Doesn't matter. Wow. Okay, I'm going to read that. What an insane clip. Wow. What an absolute clip. I hope that there aren't like ethnic minorities who are suddenly in grave danger in Hama right now. Is that a thing? I know that there are towards the coast to the west of Hama, right? Jolani is arresting SNA people who are with the Kurds, saying that Kurds and Christians will be protected. Listen, okay? Caution. Proceed with caution. HTS aren't memeing when they say they're moderating. It's difficult because they have a lot of incentive to appear moderate right now, don't they? Because the world is watching. Because the more people support them against Assad, the better. Yeah, hard to say. Jesus. How do you know when fighting's happening? How do Syrians know when there's a fight? If it's like this all the time. The counteroffensive could be happening right now. We wouldn't know. By the way, Lorna, my name is Bashar and I'm Syrian. My parents named me after the president. Brackets before the civil war, of course. It's unfortunate. It's okay, you know. At least it's a relatively common name. You know, the Adolfs of the world, they felt similar. Bashar is not common. Oh, well. Okay, just to be clear with the maps. Aleppo was first. I think this green here is last week. And then obviously Aleppo is first. They've just managed to take Hama now. It seems like the next step would be Homs. Homs is the next big city around here. And then that road all the way goes all the way to Damascus. I don't know what they plan on doing about Latakia over here. But they're already anticipating losses in Homs because apparently there is large traffic and apparently thousands of people, largely Alawites and regime supporters, evacuating towards the coast.
هاي مقابل كلية الطب. هاي مشفى الجامعة، مشفى جامعة الباس.
Are people expecting this to make its way all the way down to Damascus? Or I don't...
Right now, yeah. Everyone is feeling like the collapse of Syria's regime right now is pretty imminent, at least from outside the region. Iraq seems to stop its saber rattling because of the whole, at least the country. It doesn't seem like it's a popular decision for Iraq to enter the conflict itself. Muqtada Sadr, which is like the most popular Shia cleric in the country, who's an Arab nationalist, has called for the prime minister not to enter even. It seems the goal. Yeah, go ahead.
It also looks like there's not everyone who would be helping Assad is kind of busy right now. Like, Hezbollah have obviously just had a few issues in Lebanon. Russia's busy. Iran's kind of, I don't know what is Iran doing right now.
They were talking about the PMF, which is like the militia in Iraq, was going to enter, but when the U.S. has bombed some of their troops that were entering the place, they kind of, retreated and they never entered again. So they kind of got stopped in their tracks and they haven't actually reinforced any of Assad's position. And they don't seem like they want to enter anyway right now. So it's kind of, they're stopped from helping Assad right now.
I think the problem for Iran is that they lost all their, they lost their main
arm, which is Hezbollah. So now, if they actually enter a war in Syria themselves, they already have a lot of people on the ground. They already use all the Afghani militias. They're all on the ground. They have been suffering heavy losses in this last week. But they actually go on the ground, like they put more men on the ground and they lose a battle, or they even suffer heavy losses, like they basically lose their main army. And I don't think they're ready to risk that. They're using, I think they want to fight or die in Syria, but not themselves. So now they already using Maher al-Assad, Bashar's brother, and their main ally in Syria. And he's fighting until he's gonna die. But yeah, I don't think they're ready to enter themselves in the fight. And they can't call Hezbollah because Israel would bomb them in Syria. I think if the Iraqis get into Syria, the Israelis would bomb them as well. They already warned them about that. So yeah, basically they don't have any solution left.
Is it true that Hezbollah, Channel 12 is saying that Hezbollah sent a few hundred people into Syria just like 5 hours ago through Al-Qasr?
It might be to reinforce. It might be to reinforce Homs, but otherwise, I don't see it as a commitment to send like a lot of people there.
They didn't find any bodies, I think, in the Battle of Hama. So at least for Hama, they were talking that it was mainly the 4th Brigade and the 25th Brigade, both close allies to Iran. But there were no like Hezbollah bodies reported.
There's still
a few. You need to wait for like a visual proof that Hezbollah was there. Otherwise, it's all talk. You know what I mean?
And I think there's also Russians are still carrying out airstrikes, aren't they?
Yep, they are mainly on hospitals.
Oh yeah,
they already bombed like 5 hospitals in Aleppo and Idlib like multiple times.
I also wanted to talk to you mainly about Jolani. You seem to like question his moderating earlier.
I mean, I'm tentative about it. Like I'm just cautious around it, because I don't want to be simping for Jolani and then 3 weeks later he massacres like 20,000 people. So
Yeah, I get that. I get that a lot, but right now he has been doing a lot better than everyone has been anticipating. He's been working with the Kurds closely. His militias has imprisoned SNA fighters who were out with the Kurds. Not to mention that he has extended an olive branch with the Christians in Aleppo and the Shias in Sulaymaniyah, especially for the Ismailis. We don't know what he's going to do with the Alawites. That's the real question right now. If he's going to do good with the Alawites, then honestly, that's going to be game over for Assad. From what I've heard earlier, he seems to be gearing up to appoint the bishop in Aleppo, the Christian bishop, to be the mayor of the city, which is like huge, to be fair. Not to mention he issued a fatwa today talking about how you shouldn't smash beer bottles of Christian stores. So he's been pretty good lately.
But also I want to add, because earlier, Loner, you were saying that it's in his favor to appear as moderate as he wants right now to get like Western support mainly, and I completely agree. But the thing is, Jolani didn't start doing that like a week ago. This was his whole mantra since like 2022, 2020, in appearing more moderate, especially in like guaranteeing the safehood of minorities, guaranteeing that Christian can exercise their religion however they want. So I agree with you that he's obviously doing this to get like to build a good image, which is already a lot because Salafist Islamists, like they don't talk to Western countries generally. They mainly talk to their people. They try to appear as extreme as possible because this is how they succeed, like locally. But I think this speaks 2 volumes. First of all, for the Western community, but also for the Syrian community, because like from what I am seeing, everyone is behind the offensive right now. Like all Syrian opposition parties members are aligning behind the operation. And I think that's what like Jolani is trying to speak to these people as well, telling them he's moderate. And like I said, Salafists, like Islamists, extremists, normally don't do that. So even if he's doing it for the show, doing it for the show in itself says something.
Opposition figures speaking to Israeli TV say they love Jewish state and want to forge friendship. Is this is this real? Hang on. Is this them
I
here?
don't think that's real.
This is the Times of Israel, okay? They're not usually factually off. Like, okay, wait. Yeah, but
I don't think any serious opposition member would actually do that.
I just want to hear a Syrian dude saying that I love Jewish state. That just sounds really funny. Can you guys see this?
I can see that.
Okay.
The rebels fighting the Assad regime are very much a mixed bag, as we've just heard.
Oh,
and
yeah.
while militant Islamist groups are leading the way, they're allied with other forces, such as the Free Syrian Army, led by officers who defected from government troops and received Western support. I-24 News defense correspondent from our sister Hebrew and French channels, Matthias Inbar, has more after speaking with a senior officer in the Free Syrian Army.
Marhaba. Thanks so much for answering our question. You're an officer from the Free Syrian Army. We would like to understand exactly what's going on the ground now.
Yes, we are at a defining historical moment. There has never been anything like it, and it will not happen again in the future. Today we are fighting against a common enemy, the enemy that is behind everything we are talking about. The criminal.
I'm sorry, are Islamists just doomed to only ever communicate in 240p at 5 frames per second for the rest of their lives with a flag in the background?
Actually, he's saying he's not an Islamist in that video specifically.
Okay.
Well, you're stereotyping, Ilona.
All right, I'm just sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, I see an Arab dude with a black mask on their face and a flag in the background and a gun. Yeah, okay.
If you weren't Lebanese, I would call you racist right now, Donna.
True.
We are neither extremists nor terrorists. Every action requires a reaction, which is equivalent to that of the initial operation. All this extremism and all these crimes have caused suffering to all Syrians for 14 years. So these actions must lead to action and reaction on our part. Maybe some people will think that we are extreme, but I insist and tell all the people of the region that we are activists for peace. We are not murderous, warlike, and destructive activists. We defend ourselves from injustice and want to build our future Syrian state.
The Israeli army said that what's going on in Syria is related to Syria. What is your message to Israel and to the United States?
Here it is.
No, that's not. Yes, we look at Israel and the U.S. with the arrival of President Donald Trump, and we have a lot of respect and sympathy for them, for their actions against Iran, the country that leads terrorism in the region and all over the world. We look forward to cooperate in eliminating this enemy and restoring stability. The, unfortunately, very weak project of the former American president, Barack Obama, the creator of political Islam, Sunni and Shiite. He only exported an alternative that he thought was accepted by the people, but this alternative was unacceptable to the Arab nations. It has divided countries and created a state of instability led by Iran and its affiliates and its militias in the region. And everyone who follows what is happening knows that this is not new. We, the Syrians, are fully aware of all these plans. Israel also sabotaged this project thanks to the blessed bombings on Hezbollah. We thank everyone, I repeat again. What we have seen is indescribable. Ask all the fighters in Syria. Ask the Syrian citizens. In the streets of Syria, I stress that the Aleppo area and all the liberated areas. Today, they are rejoicing in the liberation of the areas from the impure hands of the Iranian militias and the militias of the Assad regime.
Shukran ktir. Thanks so much for answering our question.
I feel like that's false advertising, not gonna lie. Where's the I love Israel?
Yeah, where apparently there's a different one. There's like a heat. No, the Abu Tau is a. Sorry, what?
Everything he said sounds based, also, honestly.
Yeah,
I was expecting an I love Israel goon.
This website is a crime against humanity. What the f am I looking at?
It doesn't seem to be that there's anything. It feels like a Chinese telephone. You know what I mean? Can you even say that?
Yeah, Chinese whispers.
Oh yeah.
Wait, what? Oh, I met this guy, the interviewer. I met him. I met him in Sderot. I just remembered. He was filming.
Oh, you know so many.
Gaza.
You met so many Israelis when you were in Israel.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Aren't you? Yeah.
Like, why are there so many Jews here? What the? There's big updates in Syria. So I know they're advancing towards Homs. Oh god, they're already around. Oh god, they're already edging. They're already gooning on Homs. Oh my god. Where's the lid on this thing? Look down south. Ah! Wow! Who's that? When's this? 6 hours? What's happening?
So the south, they're moving Suwaida, you know the truth in the Suwaida. They're moving local factions, gave the Syrian authority 24 hours to get out, including the governor. and Assad forces are already start moving out of Suwaida. Daraa, there were already rebel factions who did a peace deal with Assad like a couple of years ago, and now they just decided to attack the checkpoints of Assad.
Tell me
So
where.
they're-
Remind me where Daraa is again.
It's on the Jordanian border, so they're controlling multiple border on the Jordanian borders.
Okay.
Multiple.
Okay, I see. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and also Jordan are closing their borders just in case.
Okay.
Another huge update: SDF attacked the 7 villages. They took Deir Zor. Yeah, so now the borders with Iraq are closed. Any talk about Iraqi militia getting in, I think that will be impossible because the SDF will defend the land.
Okay.
Also, another big update. According to Sky News, who are very close to Russia, Russia declared that they will only provide limited help to Assad, and they have other priorities at the moment. They called all the residents to get out of Syria as well.
They called Russian residents to get out of Syria.
Yes, the rebels are advancing from the north to Homs. They're already taking some villages in northern Homs, and they're attacking from the south. The SDF control the border on the southeast. So Assad only have the coast and Damascus right now.
Okay. They have the coast and the coast being Latakia and
Tartus,
Tartus and then Damascus. Okay.
So we might actually see something huge happening today.
Yeah, looks like
also, Charles Sister claimed that he heard a couple of 3 very important journalists, like for international news, already starting to write articles preparing the obituary for Assad.
The obituary for Assad.
Yeah. So
is he definitely in Damascus? People are saying
Assad,
he's in Russia.
the thing is, we don't know because we've people who are experts in planes and all, they were looking like there are a lot of planes getting out of Syria. Assad might be on one of them. He might be heading to Dubai, Moscow, or even Lebanon. The thing is, we don't know.
How far is the rebels from Damascus?
So Homs is only I would say 2 hours by car from Damascus. They haven't got into Homs yet, but they're also in Salamiyeh. They already got Salamiyeh, who's between Homs and Hama.
Yeah, and it looks like they're probably closer, right? Because they're right on the edge of Homs right now, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think the next step is taking Homs.
Just another update. It looks like Assad's militias were fortifying entrances to Damascus, so they're already fortifying the north of the city.
It's so Jova. It's so Jova for him. It's unreal. It's never been more Jova.
Yeah.
No one's coming to help Assad now because even if they wanted to, the PMF couldn't get to him anymore. So that's over. And as far as I know, the SDF are just going to keep going in the east and basically try and take the whole of Deir ez-Zor governorate and then probably move on to the Badia Desert. Interestingly though, I know me and Z were memeing and joking about a cursed alliance between the SDF and HTS, but it seems more and more likely. The head of the PYD, which is the political party behind the SDF, basically, the head of that party basically came out yesterday and said a lot of good things about HTS. And the only negative things he said about the opposition was about the SNA. He said, he basically said, HTS has been pretty cool. They haven't mistreated our people. It's just the SNA that are basically, I think he called them bandits, basically. And then Maslam Abdi, who's basically the guy in command of the SDF, basically came out and said the exact same thing. He said, yeah, we've not fought HTS and we don't plan on fighting them. Our only concerns are ISIS, the regime, and the SNA and the Turks, obviously.
And all you really need from them is a marriage of convenience, right? Or even just a non-aggression. Yeah. They don't need to be friends.
And
right?
HTS, yeah, HTS account. Well, they're group chats and even their official media have been coming out against the SNA a lot. A lot of SNA unit fighters basically got forcibly kicked out of Aleppo by the HTS.
The reason Hama is quite a big symbolic area in Syria is because it was also the site of a pretty horrible massacre. Actually, in 1982, there was a Muslim Brotherhood uprising in the city, and Hafez al-Assad, Bashar's dad, responded by getting the military to surround the entire place, to cut it off from electricity, aid, press, everything for about 27 days. And they shelled the place, they bombarded it, and the end result was about 10 to 25,000 people dead, mostly civilians. It's the biggest, I think it's still the biggest single act murder of an Arab regime by its own people. And this is them toppling Hafez's statue last night.
I just don't see how this ends for Assad other than him dying or being in exile, essentially.
People are doing all kinds of conspiracies. You know, they think HTS and ISIS are backed by Israel and the United States, and it's all a secret plan, okay? What they failed to understand is that it was a diversion, okay? It's a diversion. There's another group that has been planning this, that has had imperial interests in Syria far longer than the United States or Israel, okay? And that country is France, okay? I'm just saying, this is what France wanted for Syria and the mandate. And they were like, no, listen, they've been planning this for a long time, okay? As the imperial overlords intended, the prophecy will one day be fulfilled. They sit in the shadows, okay? But they didn't fool me.
Jomana Karatse sat down for an exclusive interview with the main rebel leader, Abu Muhammad al-Jolani.
In a matter of days, you have taken major cities. What's changed? How are you able to do this now?
In recent years, there has been a unification of internal opinions and the establishment of institutional structures within the liberated areas of Syria. This institutionalization included the restructuring within military factions. They entered unified training camps and developed a sense of discipline. This discipline allowed them, with God's guidance, to engage in a battle in an organized manner. The progress and execution of plans have been swift, with clear communication and adherence to commands. They stop where they should stop and withdraw where they should withdraw. The revolution has transitioned from chaos and randomness to a state of order, both in civil and institutional matters and in military operations alike.
Bashar al-Assad survived the war. He was welcomed back into the Arab fold and on the world stage.
The Arab countries' evaluation of the situation was mistaken. Some Arab countries try to separate the regime from Iran's project. This is impossible. To describe the regime as victorious is deeply unjust to the many children, people, women subjected to rape in prisons, displaced individuals scattered across the world, those drowning in the seas, and those living in tents on the borders of other countries. What kind of victory are we talking about?
In the past, you have talked about strict Islamic rule. Is that still the plan?
We are talking about something that aligns with the traditions and nature of the region. The most important thing is to build institutions. We are not talking about rule by individuals or personal whims. It's about institutional governance. Syria deserves a governing system that is institutional, not one where a single ruler makes arbitrary decisions.
Ooh. Institutions? Oh shit. He's definitely NATO-backed. Only an American would say that.
Many Syrians are happy and will be happy to see the end of the Assad regime, but they're also worried about what HTS rule would mean, including minorities.
No one has the right to erase another group. These sects have coexisted in this region for hundreds of years, and no one has the right to eliminate them. There must be a legal framework that protects and ensures the rights of all, not a system that serves only one sect, as Assad's regime has done.
You know, listening to you speaking, you've gone through quite the transformation. Once an Al-Qaeda leader, your group has had affiliations with Al-Qaeda, with ISIS, and now you are projecting this image of a moderate leader and a moderate group. What is HTS right now?
Hayat Tahrir al-Sham is one of the factions in the region, just like all the others. Now we're talking about a larger project. We're talking about building Syria. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham is merely one detail of this dialogue, and it may dissolve at any time. It's not an end in itself, but a means to perform a task confronting this regime. Once that task is complete, it will transition to a state of governance, institutions, and so on. I believe that everyone in life goes through phases and experiences, and these experiences naturally increase a person's awareness. A person in their 20s will have a different personality than someone in their 30s or 40s.
Oh no, this is American talk again. This is American self-help. Everyone's on a journey. Is he going to talk about how before this great success he went to a dark place, like American celebrities when they're getting interviewed? This is not good for the NATO backing allegations, okay?
Transition to a state of governance, institutions, and so on. I believe that everyone in life goes through phases and experiences, and these experiences naturally increase a person's awareness. A person in their 20s will have a different personality than someone in their 30s or 40s, and certainly someone in their 50s.
So are those days behind you?
Sometimes it's essential to adjust to reality, and because someone who rigidly clings to certain ideas and principles without flexibility cannot effectively lead societies or navigate complex conflicts like the one happening in Syria.
People listening to this are going to wonder why they should believe you. You are still a specially designated global terrorist by the United States with a $10 million bounty on your head.
Oh, tell her Mandela was a terrorist.
Your group is a prescribed terrorist organization by the United States, by the UN, by the EU, and others.
I say to people, don't judge by words, but by actions. I believe the reality speaks for itself. These classifications are primarily political and at the same time wrong. I define a terrorist as someone who intentionally kills civilians, harms innocents, or displaces people. If we're being honest, many of the wars waged by major powers in Arab, Muslim, and even non-Muslim countries have involved the deliberate of thousands, the destruction of homes, and the displacement of millions. Even the regime itself is guilty of such actions.
But the US and others would say is that you were parts of groups that did exactly that.
Personally, I have not done these things. The situation must be understood in its historical context. There was a massive war in Iraq that deeply stirred people's emotions, prompting many to go there. The circumstances of that war led people to various places, and my path led me to one of those locations. Given my level of awareness and my young age at the time, my actions evolved to where I am today. I didn't go to Iraq with those intentions. I went to defend the Iraqi people. When I returned to Syria, I didn't want to bring what happened in Iraq into Syria. That's why there were disagreements between us and ISIS.
People would be wondering why you've agreed to speak with us.
What is happening in Syria is significant for the entire world.
Do we want to watch Hasan giving his opinion on this? I don't know.
God.
Yes, please.
The HTS has stated they don't support Gaza, etc. Wow, I'm shocked.
No, they what?
Wait,
Wow.
what? Where is this coming from?
It's coming from Hasan's chat. It's on the ground. That's an on-the-ground journalist. What are you talking about?
Holy the fact that he just believes that with no other information is so damning on what he thinks about what in geopolitics.
Hasan responds to Lonerbox.
What an incredible research process. Uncritically accept the most obvious information from chat, embellish and conclude that HTS is directly in coordination with Israel. Wait, what the why do these guys consistently just, I don't know, maybe
There's no way he's going to bring up that article of that random anonymous commander who's a secularist who's not part of HTS who said he loves Israel. He's not going to do that, is he? There's no way he's bringing that up, that article. We'll see.
maybe from a place of their own ignorance, act as though certain things that have happened in the past are not real with the full-blown knowledge that other people don't know. Wait, hold on. Oh, I'm gonna call Uber for my dad. 1, HTS is former Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Number 2.
Okay, since then, what does it have to do with Israel? Is he going to mention that HTS and Jolani have basically been at war with ISIS for 10 years? That Al-Qaeda was let go by Jolani to form HTS, and that the last 4, 5, 6 years of HTS rule in Idlib has been largely involving them purging elements of Al-Qaeda and ISIS, that they don't behave like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Like, I don't know how many times have you seen Al-Qaeda or ISIS going into an area and using drones to drop little cards down to people, to Assad soldiers, saying, if you want to defect, call this number so you'll be safe. And if you're not going to defect, this is your time to flee. Yeah, they did that. That might be the first time ever, I think, there has been a non-state actor, a non-state military, dropping leaflets down and cards down to the population before they advance, telling them how to be safe. And that's not even to mention, obviously, the directives given to people not to harm minorities and not to loot the houses of civilians and everything. Again, there are still extremist elements in HTS, but the changes that they've gone through, it's not just Jolani saying institutions and diversity. They've actually been doing these things for the last 4 years. That's part of actually why the offensive was so successful.
The Al-Qaeda and ISIS equivalents in the region have absolutely collaborated with the Israeli government.
Oh, yeah?
I understand it's easy for people to dunk on Twitch streamers in these clips. There's actually reason to believe that Israel at least has tenuous partnership with HTS. If you don't believe Hasan, maybe the ex-Mossad head from 8 years ago will convince you. Okay, you say no. Why didn't Al-Qaeda...
Wait, does he not watch the clip? How does he know what he's... Does he not watch the clip? 131. He doesn't watch the thing that I reacted to. Is he that insecure that he doesn't want his fans to see 30 seconds of him being an idiot? He doesn't know what he's responding to. He's responding to this, just so you know. Okay? One more for the boys.
The HTS has stated they don't support Gaza, etc. Wow, I'm shocked. Wow, that's really interesting. One must ask the question why so many of these Salafist groups who are supposed to be the Islamist fundamentalists that are quite literally presented as the...
He believes a chatter told him that HTS said they don't support Gaza. That's where this came from. And it's so funny. The more you read about, the more you realize just how unbelievably insane that claim is. So just for context, not only did HTS back October 7th, they supported it. Jolani supports it. They also mourned when Sinwar died. I think they mourned when Hania died as well. And by the way, Hamas acknowledges this. This is from Al-Quds. This is then on October 13th in Idlib, the protests, which was HTS controlled, of people coming out in support of Gaza and slamming Assad for bombing them instead of bombing Israel. It's like no one disagrees with this, that these guys have nothing, they have no love for Israel. Why is he called Jolani? Because his parents were kicked out of the Golan Heights. That's his pseudonym. Golan. This is a memory soying out over the fact that they were fundraising for Gaza on October 30th last year. Their Ministry of Endowment and Guidance held a fundraiser called Gaza and Idlib One Wound under HTS rule. And this, by the way, they're using this, the Syrian government, the Syrian Salvation Government in Idlib. Yeah, they're connected to, when they talk about HTS and their institution building, it's them integrating themselves in with the Salvation Government. They released a Hamas fighter, a fairly high-profile Al-Qassam leader from Sednaya, and Hamas themselves praised the takeover because most Palestinians don't like Assad. Did Israel tell them to do this as well? Stand firmly with the Syrian people. They know who's in charge. They know who took over. It's not like they're just guessing. They know who they're talking to when they say this. It's like everyone consents. Israel consents. Analysts consent. Hamas consents. The only person who doesn't consent to this claim is Hasan and that guy in chat who told him that the HTS doesn't support Gaza. Unbelievable.
Al-Qaeda-linked jihadist groups in Syria fight against Israel as it committed genocide in Gaza and slaughtered thousands in Lebanon because Israel armed and supported them. Don't believe it?
Why didn't Al-Qaeda-linked jihadist groups fight against Israel? That's a really good question. You know, why did they fight with Assad before fighting with Israel? Is it potentially because they were... I don't know if you know about this region, Bub. This is regime-controlled territory at the border with Israel. Miles and miles and miles and miles and miles away from the jihadis, you call them, up here. You kind of have to get to Damascus before you get to Jerusalem, pal. I love it. He always does this. Hasan always, he can't respond to me without using someone else. He needs someone else to do the responses for him. Every time.
But here's the former head Mossad Ephraim Halevi admitting it.
There have been reports that Israel's been treating wounded Syrian rebel fighters in its hospitals on the border, including fighters from Nusra Front, which is, of course, the Al-Qaeda proxy in Syria. Do those reports worry you that Israel's helping wounded Al-Qaeda-aligned fighters?
Yep. You know what they should do? If a bunch of wounded people come towards the border because they can't get any other help, and you don't know, a lot of them are, women and children as well. I think 1,300 out of those 5,000 people who were treated were children, and some of the men were civilians. What you should do is just let them die if you're Israel. That would be more chill, apparently. What? Okay. How is that collaboration?
As I said before, in a different context, It's always useful also to deal with your enemies in a humane way. And I think that when you have people who are wounded and you can deal with them in a humane way, the considerations as to whether to take them in are not simply whether it's politically useful or whether it's politically
So it's purely humanitarian, you say? So there's no tactical or political strategic...
Why do people who say do your research don't understand that, like, maybe they should do their own research some?
How is this proving your claim, Hasan? This has nothing to do with collaboration. Do you think they should have just left them to die? Wounded people coming up to the border for help. I know why. It's like Hasan can't fathom the idea of any humanitarian operation coming from Israel. They can't. That's inconceivable. The rebels in Syria were not at war with Israel at the time. They were fighting with Assad. They weren't fighting with Israel.
Sometimes, like, I mean, this is just one guy, but we've covered this extensively. Yeah, Vice did a document.
Deep dived into it.
On it. Syrian fighters rescued by the IDF, the war next door. Thank you, Elant News.
Like, he's just getting all his talking points from his chat. This is collaboration, is it? This group isn't even formed here. And they were up in the north. They were in Idlib. That's like saying you can't fathom the Nazis doing anything humanitarian. I don't even know what kind of logical fallacy that becomes. What? So all this operation again, this was all of this to you was a plan to get a bunch of jihadists 10 years later collaborating with Israel. What was it? This operation wasn't just helping people who came to the border, though. It was also humanitarian aid across because people in a lot of these border communities couldn't get any aid because Assad was blocking them all from aid. I'm pretty sure, yeah, Operation Good Neighbor, they sent food and shit as well. And the people they helped here, some of them, a completely unspecified number of people were al-Nusra. Other ones would have been secular rebels, others would have been Druze rebels, others would have been women and children, others would have been male civilians. This is the terrorist collaboration bakery. Syria is such a diverse country. Its war is really complex. Its factions are really complex. But suddenly, this Ottoman colonizer has just decided to paint them all as Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and in collaboration with Israel. Like, nothing actually internally that's interesting about Syria is coming up at all in this, is it?
Oh,
he's so sad.
Bonerbox literally said
he still hasn't watched the clip.
Research a few days before he talks about the issues.
Base, that's exactly what I do. Apparently, it gets you. That's all you need to get a leg up on this idiot. Okay.
I don't know why these guys like don't read up. I'll say this.
What do you mean read up? You've been sent clips from your chat, Hasan. You're gathering clips from Twitter. What do you mean read up? Twitter.
Hate on me all you want, okay? But if you're a political commentator and your North Star basically is just on me, you do end up misinforming your audience quite a bit. And I know that like there's a market for this kind of commentary.
Yeah, there is, because you're turning the youths into dribbling morons who are watching the worst dictator in the Middle East of the last century, even probably more. I don't even know how far back you have to go to get someone as bad as Assad. And they're just like, well, they support Israel. The rebels support Israel. And come on, Al-Qaeda, ISIS.
If your goal is to at least like do better propaganda or to a certain degree educate your, to educate your followers, you are going to unfortunately end up causing them to be misinformed. Hold on.
True. Say there's no tactical.
I mean, you know, right? If it weren't for me, okay, you guys would know the truth, which is that the leader of HTS doesn't support Gaza and is collaborating with Israel. If it weren't for me, you guys would know the truth. Because what? Because Israel gave medical aid to 5,000 people 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's like...
Yeah, that's like completely logical then.
To me, I feel like is interesting, right?
Yeah.
Wait, what the... How do I? Yeah, the enemy of my enemy is my friend is the attitude here, which is why I think it's like really weird that these guys...
Okay, he's given me nothing so far to prove that Jolani and HTS don't support Gaza, and definitely nothing to prove that they're coordinating with Israel. But we've got like a minute and a half left.
Guys don't know that.
He's going to drop the bombshell.
Are like openly posturing as though the people, my naysayers in this circumstance, are openly posturing as though they are... as though I'm wrong.
Yep. Yeah, you are. He hasn't even watched the clip. How the do you even know what you're wrong about or not? Does this chat even remember what he's responding to at this point?
Like, very weird.
Very weird.
He won't respond to this. He's only interested in picking off the worst opinions and trying to dunk on those. So Israel treating 5,000 people, including civilians, some of whom were FSA fighters in a period before HTS, Was even formed is supposed to be evidence of Israel coordinating with HTS 10 years later. Come back when you learn that not all Arabs are the same, Lamau. Yeah.
True.
I don't think all Arabs are the same.
Come on, respond to this one yourself, Hasan. Don't get someone else to bring up a tweet or someone to send you a link. Just use your own wits, okay? Come on, one chance. You've got this, okay? You know, you're a big guy. You've worn the turtleneck and gone to Cambridge. Come on. You can do this one all by yourself, Hasan. I believe in you, okay?
All Arabs are the same, Lamau. Yeah, I don't think all Arabs are the same.
He's gonna do it, okay? He believes in himself.
That's precisely why I'm saying groups like Al-Nusra are different. You know, groups that are directly Salafist, engaged in global jihad, engaged in ethnic cleansing, regardless of their change of attitude against other parts of the movement, like Al-Qaeda. That still doesn't, you know, that's still...
Okay, so he acknowledges there have been changes. Okay. And what does it have? Their stance on Israel? Is that going to come up? Because they still really hate Israel. They still love Hamas, and they still cried when Sinwar died.
Still doesn't change this outcome.
I don't What outcome? What are we... Okay. He did that by himself.
Not sure if this dude is ignorant. I blocked him either way, but outside of Al-Jolani saying Israel is not our enemy, and outside of Israel working with Al-Nusra against Hezbollah, Netanyahu himself claimed responsibility for Jolani's success today.
Al-Jolani... Why is he's getting tweets to help him, and every tweet has a piece of disinfo in it. Al-Jolani never said Israel is not our enemy. He has never said that. If he said that, he'd probably get lynched, okay? The reason people are saying this is because of this stupid... Is it this one? It's this one. People are sharing this article from an anonymous secular rebel commander who is not part of HTS. It's like in his 60s, saying he's okay with Israel. And people are using this one. We're open to friendship with everyone, including Israel. And the picture of Jolani below, people are sharing this. Like they're just screen grabbing this and being like, look, Jolani's okay with Israel. Even though this photo has nothing to do with the interview. The person being interviewed here is not part of HTS, doesn't share the same ideology as HTS, and is not a leader. They're a commander. Right? Okay.
Our enemy, and outside of Israel working with Al-Nusra against Hezbollah, Netanyahu himself claimed responsibility for Jolani's success today. Yeah. That's the other side of this equation, which is that Israel's taking credit for it.
Israel said that they helped to topple Assad, but it wasn't planned. Wasn't planned. Why? Yeah, because Israel is an enemy of Hezbollah, and they attacked Hezbollah. And Hezbollah is also a big friend of Assad. Is that coordination? The fact that that Hezbollah decided to make enemies all over the region? Even Hasan knows that everyone in the region hates Hezbollah. Of course people are going to fight them. Doesn't mean they're friends. This is the other thing where like one Israeli person says something, like a minister, or then they'll just say the entire country has this statement. But with Netanyahu, he also said that there was risk in Assad's absence. He said it was fraught with significant dangers. Why do you think they've bombed 300 targets in Syria?
It's a little bit more complicated than just these guys hate these guys. They never actually align with one another on anything. That's why I gave you the example of the Kurdish militia forces that are also backed by and offered logistical support. But like literally, they are the American militias on the ground. Okay. The Kurdish militias
you see what
are...
I mean? How he talks about Kurds, the American militias on the ground. Is he fucking insane? Bro, this is the kind of shit you hear from the MHP party in Turkey.
This is actually because he apparently doesn't like Turkey in the sense that they are backing HTS, but also like he's doing Kurdish nationalist takes on Kurds. I feel like there's a really strong case for like proper, just like Ottoman revivalist, you know, the way he talks about Jewish-Muslim relations under the Ottoman Empire, the way he talks about Kurds. The way,
it's Turkish imperialism, basically.
The way he denies any agency to Arabs and just kind of invents their positions for them. I feel like there's a really strong case for like proper, just like Ottoman revivalist, you know, the way he talks about Jewish-Muslim relations under the Ottoman Empire, the way he talks about Kurds. The way,
it's Turkish imperialism, basically.
The way he denies any agency to Arabs and just kind of invents their positions for them. Jolani is not he's had a very troubled past, shall we say, okay? He's very problematic. His father was arrested by the Ba'ath Party twice, I think once in the late 60s and then again in the early 70s after he returned. Because I think after his first release, he went over to cooperate with the Fedayeen in Jordan, actually, early 70s. He cooperated with the Fedayeen just before Black September. And then he went back to Syria and got imprisoned again. Jolani was an admirer of the 9/11 attacks in his youth. I think he was in his 20s. I believe his comments were something along the lines of, America deserved it, I'm saying it, dude. Seems his main inspiration for going and doing what he did in Iraq was the Second Intifada, because that's around the same time when he went. And I think he said that in interviews as well. The Second Intifada was like a big inspiration for him. He fought the Americans in Iraq under the command of Al-Qaeda. He was also imprisoned by the Americans. He was held in Abu Ghraib, actually. You know, the prison that is iconic now, is infamous for a very long list of cases of torture and rampant abuse of prisoners. He was there. In the Syrian civil war, as early as 2012, when he was still fairly unknown, he was an emir of the, what was it called? Al-Nusra, which is a kind of like group that's adjacent to ISIS and was Al-Qaeda, and was considered adjacent to ISIS, to Al-Qaeda by the United States. So he was already like a bit of an issue at this point. In 2014, he fell out with ISIS because al-Baghdadi wanted to merge al-Nusra with ISIL, and he said no. So he's basically been at war with Islamic State groups since about 2014. In 2015, I think was the first time he publicly showed signs of like moderation, even though it was very tentative. I think he argued that Syrian factions would have to be consulted before they decided to form an Islamic State in place of Assad. He also, at that time, called for indiscriminate bombings of Alawite communities in Latakia. The Alawites, just so you know, being the minority Shia-adjacent Muslim group in Syria that supports Assad, because Assad's an Alawite. He's a sectarian Alawite. So here, what else did he do? Oh yeah, in 2015 as well, still his problematic days, he called for Muslims in the former Soviet sphere, like former Soviet countries in the Caucasus, to Russians. I think the sentence he used was Russians, like including military, as in like he wanted to kill any Russians, civilian or otherwise, from Muslims in former Soviet countries in response to Russia's support for Assad, like the Russian strikes. But in 2017, he formed the group that, as we know it now, HTS, Tahrir al-Sham. And in this area here, where they were governing, they went to war again with ISIS and Al-Qaeda and the rest of those extremist groups, and they effectively purged them. So they kind of like consolidate their control under HTS, and it's a whole group of a bunch of different Islamist or secular factions that oppose Assad. And from then on, most of the extremist elements of that group were purged. And that's where you start to see what we call like the moderating forces, right? So, but when they mean moderating, what they mean is that there are quite a lot of Christians who lived in Syria, not so many anymore, but they're still there. And when Al-Qaeda and ISIS were a bit more powerful, a lot of those Christians were in trouble, okay? They were persecuted, a lot of them they had their churches looted and burnt down or whatever, but he did make overtures to the Christian minorities in those areas, and they seemed to be convincing because they made deals with church leaders. They managed to help a lot of the people get their churches back. It's really popular in HTS media for a while to show people footage of just Christians going about their day as usual. I think when they took over Aleppo, they managed to secure an agreement with the archbishop there for HTS rule. There are also 100,000 Kurds in Aleppo, and again, it seems to be, tentatively, it seems to be that there's an understanding that this minority is not going to be too badly with by HTS, but again, it all remains to be seen. So now the kind of meme going on around Jolani is that he's like they call him a DEI jihadist because recently he goes on to CNN just the other day and starts talking about institutions and protecting minorities and all this kind of shit. He actually, in an interview just not that long ago, literally just said the words, "Diversity is our strength. In the future Syria, we believe that diversity is a strength, not a weakness." And this is him, where is it? This is him chatting away to CNN.
And the establishment of institutional structures within the liberated areas of Syria. This institutionalization included the restructuring within military factions. The revolution has transitioned from chaos and randomness to a state of order, both in civil and institutional matters. The most important thing is to build institutions. We are not talking about rule by individuals or personal whim.
It sounds kind of intentional, the amount of times he says institutions. Like, it's like he's just done it's like he's just done a civics 101 course.
It's about institutional governance. Syria deserves a governing system that is institutional, not one where a single ruler makes arbitrary decisions. There must be a legal framework that protects and ensures the rights of all, not a system that serves only one sect, as Assad's regime has done. Once that task is complete, it will transition to a state of governance, institutions, and so on. And the established...
He read Why Nations Fail. Yeah. He did a course on U.S. civics, from the Articles of Confederation to the Constitution to the Bill of Rights. He read the Federalist Papers. I came here to drink milk and built inclusive institutions. And I've just finished my milk. Liberalism falls in the West and arises in the East. Yeah. So he's like he's a bit of a memer, okay? He's a bit of a meme lord. And I don't doubt some of it is going to be performative because he is anticipating overthrowing Assad. I think it's pretty likely. Like, Assad's done. It's Jover. People are malding. But I don't think all of it's fake. He's obviously anticipating becoming a leader and wanting recognition and all that. But I think he's also recognized through his experience, like, the reason he won and Al-Qaeda and ISIS and all these other extreme factions in the area lost, I think it's really partly because you can be disciplined militarily if you're a bunch of nutters, right? Like, it's possible to have a reasonable military but also be insane. But one of the things that helps in Syria, which is a very multicultural society, is it does help to get consent from other factions, right? They're not the only big group in Syria that opposes Assad, like, far from it. So not only does it behoove them, does it help them to get consent from different minority groups in the region, it also helps them to have a stable relationship with other groups. Now, do I think he's a liberal Democrat? Am I libbing out over this guy? Not really. He's done bad shit. He's said bad shit. There are many, many people in his group that are obviously not as institutionally minded as he is, institutional pilled, but it's something. And it has played out on the ground as well. Like, it's not, this is not just something he's decided to say in the last 5 minutes because he's anticipating winning the war, okay? He's been behaving this way and achieving results in this way for quite a few years now, 5, 6, 7 years. So, the world's going to be a better place without Assad. So I would say cautious optimism. I would say a cautious optimism for this region, okay? Do we think HTS are going to put up a fight against Israel and then cause, like, issues over there with the Golan and shit? Probably. I don't think these guys are going to make peace with Israel anytime soon. And I don't think Israel would give up the Golan Heights to HTS anytime soon. I don't think they would trust any peace offerings from them. One more time. One more for the boys.
HTS has stated they don't support Gaza, etc. Wow, I'm shocked.
It's never going to...
That's really interesting.
I could watch this clip a million times.
One must ask the question, why so many of these Salafist groups who are supposed to be the Islamist fundamentalists that are quite literally presented as the Hamas alternative by Western media, seemingly always...
Shocking. Funded by Israel in chat. Like, what the man? Hasan, what are you doing? What are you doing? He doesn't support Assad, okay? Hasan does not support Assad. He just is doing Assad's propaganda for free. This is Assad's talking points. This is what an Assadist would say. I don't know how much clearer I can make it. Assad likes it that you're saying this for him. He's sitting there, you know, clutching at straws. The last straw he has is that the largest political commentator in the United States, in the world really, live streamer, is doing a little bit of propaganda that would help you. Okay, that's his last straw. He's sitting there dangling in his Speedos, holding to the last straw that is Hasan being a cataclysmically stupid, right? Jesus.
Find themselves not at odds with Israel, but directly in coordination with Israel.
Yeah, that would be suspicious if it were true about other groups and also this one right now. Yeah. Syrian Girl is absolutely molding. Her entire world is falling apart here, right? She posted this video yesterday of paratroopers dropping in And she said that it was the Syrian army doing it to fight Al Qaeda in Hama, because she calls them all Al Qaeda as well. Because she does it. It's understandable why she does it, because she's an Assadist, right? When Hasan does it, it's like, why? But yeah, this video is from 2021. Wait, she got community noted. Yeah, it's 2023. Sorry, yeah, it's an old video. She is on otherworldly levels of cope now. She's literally Hitler in the bunker during downfall, awaiting Hussein al-Steiner's plan. What is it they say? The Karl Marx quote? History repeats itself, okay? First is tragedy, then is farce. Bloody hell. Let's bring this guy to one more time. One more time for the boys.
They could be fans of
the lads. Let's get one more out for the lads. Come on. We can't do it alone, can we, Hasan?
Small towns and villages towards the city of Hama, where an earlier uprising against Assad was brutally suppressed. This afternoon, they captured Aleppo's airport, thumbing their noses at President Assad pictured above the main door. Syria's leader is thought to be visiting Moscow.
The HTS has stated they don't support Gaza, etc. Wow, I'm shocked. Wow, that's really interesting. One must ask the question, why so many of these Salafist groups who are supposed to be the Islamist fundamentalists that are quite literally presented as the Hamas alternative by Western media, seemingly always find themselves not at odds with Israel, but directly in coordination with Israel. Yeah, they're against Israel's enemies. Okay, this doesn't mean that the
We should really, you know what we should do? So we should invite this guy to Cambridge and let him tell us things for an hour, apparently. Apparently that's a good idea. Is Hasan pro-Assad? No, Hasan's just an idiot. He is literally just doing Assad propaganda by accident, completely. He's literally, there's one rake in a 1 square mile field, and Hasan has decided to paraglide into the field and faceplant right onto the rake. That's what he does. That's what he's doing here, yeah. Who does Hasan support in Syria? Hasan has no idea who to support in Syria, okay? He doesn't care. Hasan doesn't give a Why do you think he cares? What? That's just Arabs fighting with each other. Doesn't involve the Jews, doesn't involve the West. Why would he care? And you guys might say, oh, but we support Israel, so it matters more. Shut the up. Like, yeah? Where was his content on Saudi Arabia for the last 5 years? Where was his commentary on Saudi and Yemen? The only time he seems to have taken an interest in Yemen and the Houthis is because they were attacking ships. It's because they were claiming to attack Israeli ships, even though they weren't. They were attacking ships that were going from Turkey to India. The only time he gave a about Yemen and mentions, the genocide in Saudi and all that shit, yeah, it was because the Houthis were claiming to be supporting Palestine. It's not about who the West supports. It's not about the scale of the suffering. Why would you say you have no issue with Hezbollah after what they did in Syria? Right now, the calculation from Hasan is just ironic detachment, okay? Everyone's bad. I'm nuanced because I am zooming in on a flag and taking my opinions from chat about Jolani's opinions on Gaza. It's just, for some reason, okay, and I don't think Hasan does this intentionally, okay? For some reason, it only matters when the Jews do it, really. It matters more when the Jews do it. And if you're Hasan, you might just think that's because Israel-Palestine's a more interesting story, or because it's the better for clicks. It obviously is. Other people care about it more. But if you're Israeli and if you're Jewish, you're just going to think, well, why are we so special? All right? Like, you're only going to come to one conclusion when you hear that. And look at this map. Damascus might fall before Homs. These rebels in the south are different. They're made up of, I can't look at this, man. It's unbelievable. These are made up, I think, of largely Druze groups in the very south bit here, and also just other various rebel groups that I think some are actually getting formed on the spot. I've seen this in the UA updates, that there are just new rebel factions just forming on the fly in the south. I think the ones in the south are a bit more secular than the ones in the north, so yeah, it looks like they're going to meet in the middle. It looks like Assad is molding. IDF posted a tweet saying they're assisting the UN in repelling an attack in the Golan Heights. Well, yeah, because now the Golan Heights is basically bordered with rebels. Are the southern rebels more moderate? As far as I know, they're more secular. Again, secular doesn't necessarily mean moderate, right? Like, Assad is technically secular. Will HTS attack Druze rebels? Again, it's like there have been overtures and olive branches extended, but yeah, I don't know. It's all very, who knows. I saw that Assad was trying to fortify, the Assad forces were fortifying Damascus on the outskirts earlier, but doesn't seem to be helping. How close are they? This is like only a few kilometers, right? They must be so close. Removing images of pro-Assad forces symbols. Are there civilians in the Golan Heights? Yep. A lot of Druze people live there. The Druze. Will Syrian refugees go back if Assad is defeated? So Jolani has said that he will commit to the return of refugees. One problem is there are a lot of them. There are many of them. Okay, I imagine some of them are happy with where they live in Europe now, like they've got their stuff together. But you remember the Syrian civil war broke out in what, 2011, 2012? The refugee crisis didn't reach Europe until 2015. Do you know why? It's not because people weren't fleeing. People had fled. It's just that they didn't. It's just that they fled to their neighboring countries. They went to Jordan, Lebanon, Turkey. They thought they were going to return home. They thought the war wouldn't last very long. Why would you go too far away? But that will be a task. They're going to have to resettle a lot of people. Like, you got 3 million of them in Turkey, and Syrian refugees in Turkey are not very well treated. Being a refugee in Turkey is like, they can grant you your refugee rights. They can say, yeah, you've got a legitimate claim, you're a refugee, put a stamp on and everything, but you can't send your kids to school, right? Like, this is the kind of thing that happens for refugees in Turkey, is they have not been able to rebuild their lives in large parts. Some of them actually have been deported to Syria already, like years ago that was happening. There's quite a lot of them in Lebanon still. I think there's still a lot in Jordan, no? The Syrian refugee crisis was massive. It was millions of people. Yeah, nearly 1 million in Lebanon, 700,000 in Jordan, 250,000 in Iraq, right in the border. So it looks like the only people that Israel have fought with so far are rebels, ironically. So much for the coordination. They said that they're helping the United Nations repel attacks by militants in the Syrian Hadar area on the Golan border. Also saying that they've detected armed factions near the border. So I don't know what this is, if they're just like armed groups who are caught up in things and they feel like taking a pop at Israel while they can. Did Emboman say that Israel is helping Assad? Listen, Emboman's on a journey, okay? He's like Jolani, you know? He's on a journey. He'll be talking about institutions in 10 years, okay? Just give him time. Assad's going to give a speech from Doha. Oh, he gave his location away. Private plane left Damascus and is currently flying east. I wonder why Assad doesn't want to stay at home. Supposed to be my day off, okay? It's supposed to be my day off. And I wake up this morning thinking, I know it's going to happen on my day off. Because why would the world be so unfair on me? 2 people were wronged in this event, okay? One is the lion, Bashar al-Assad, and the other one is me. Because I wake up and I see this, and I'm like, oh no, I have to talk about that. Oh, look at it, it's done. It's done. Assad is reportedly in Russia. He reportedly escaped. The regime has fallen. The Assad regime, easily one of the most brutal, miserable dictatorships in living memory, is getting effed in the chat. F's in the chat for Assad, guys. Ooh, peace in the Middle East. Not really. Not really. There's still a lot more going on, but it is quite incredible. The Assad regime of him and his dad Hafez, which has lasted for decades, is just, it's amazing. It's like it's been such a constant. Hafez has been there, I believe, since what, the 70s, early 70s? Maybe, hang on. His son Bashar came in 2000. He wasn't really 71, yeah. His son wasn't really supposed to be president ever. You can tell because he doesn't carry himself very well. Stumbles upon his words. He's not really like the same kind of firebrand that Saddam Hussein was. Yeah, the Ba'ath takeover was 66, but then there was an internal coup within the Ba'ath party because Hafez was the defense minister who took over in 71, which is kind of amazing because normally if you lose to Israel in a war, you're probably in trouble. But Hafez obviously lost in Yom Kippur and managed to survive. Yeah, Bashar was supposed to be he was an eye doctor, wasn't he? In the UK. His favorite band was Electric Light Orchestra. I don't know how I know that. And Syrian civil war starts in 2011. He gets pushed pretty hard to the back foot by various rebel groups, but through a lot of cunning and a lot of cynicism and a lot of sheer brutality, he manages to hold on to most of the country with a good helping hand from his allies in Iran, a critical helping hand from Hezbollah, chemical weapons, war crimes, attacks upon civilians, sheer terror and brutality by way of torture, flattening entire areas just to terrorize the population into submitting to him. A war that took the lives of at least 500,000 people, displaced millions, around, what, 200,000 or 300,000 civilians, about 90% of whom are attributable to Assad, Russia, and other pro-government forces. He's gone. He's gone. In what appears to have been a very special military operation. That's what this was. This lasted, what, a week? One week and a half? The SDF have gained ground past the Euphrates. He's in Moscow now. Yep. Do you think when Assad arrives in Moscow, he can tell Putin what a special military operation looks like? How fast? Putin would strangle him to death with his bare hands. A week is a long time in politics. What is it they say? There are decades where nothing happens, and then there are a matter of days where decades happen? Well. This is the Alawite heavy region here, Latakia and Tartus. This is the group that is basically seen as the potential canary in the coal mine for how rebel rule is going to go, because Jolani has given assurances to the Alawites in the past. We're about to see if they actually stand the test. Alawites, for those of you who don't know, are a Shiite sect. They make up about 10 to 15% of Syria's population, I believe. Assad was an Alawite. He was a sectarian Alawite, and the Alawites supported him. So, being an Alawite under the rule of Sunni Islamists, especially, who don't like the Assad regime and are also potentially a bit extreme, you probably don't want to be an Alawite in their hands, but we just have to watch, I guess. In any case, the bar is fairly low. It's not going to be that. It's going to be pretty difficult for any new state of affairs to be worse than what Assad did. Assad was a piece of shit. He was easily the worst cunt in the region. He basically was willing to burn his country down just to rule over the ashes. It turns out that now that they've liberated they've liberated Damascus and Homs and Hama, they've been coming across districts in these areas that were focal points of the civil war when there was rebel conflict here. And there are areas that were flattened years ago by the Assad regime, and they just haven't been rebuilt. They're just kind of where they were. They're just as they were left. There are some parts, I think, of Damascus, we were going over it yesterday, that you can't even go. You couldn't even go under Assad rule because it was so ugly, right? They just didn't want people to see how bad it was. Why were there Syrians who adored Assad and his regime? Because Assad is a sectarian, okay? He's a sectarian. And if you're a sectarian, you're going to have supporters, okay? And Assad was also very, very adept. He did it more cynically than any other leader I've ever heard of in my life, where you basically say all your enemies are terrorists. In 2011, when protesters were getting arbitrarily arrested for doing pretty much nothing, or just nothing, peacefully protesting, he was also releasing prisoners through presidential decree. He was releasing terrorists. He was releasing people who had engaged in terror acts in the past, some of whom went on to become the leaders of ISIS, okay, and other Al-Qaeda spin-offs and the rest of it. He did that in part because he wanted to let them fester among the rebel groups, the opposition groups, so that he could give weight to his claim that he was defending Syria against terrorists, against Sunni extremist terrorists, defending his sect, the Alawites, against terrorists. That was basically the Assad strategy. All our enemies are Al-Qaeda, ISIS, or Israel. All of them. And by extension, the United States, right? It's the way Putin talks about denazification in Ukraine. Yeah. The ophthalmology to dictator pipeline. Well done. I don't know. What else is there to worry about, I guess? I mean, the developments with Israel, we'll talk about that in a minute. That's pretty bad. That's not going to be good. I imagine there's probably going to be some scuffling of the status quo over there, to say the least. Now that Hezbollah are as weakened as ever, when Hezbollah joined Assad in about 2012, 2013, to basically rescue their regime with military training, intelligence, logistics, plugging gaps, etc., one of their rationales, the way they sold that to their country, or to the Shiites at least, was that they didn't want the Shiite parts of Lebanon, at least in this part here, the Bekaa Valley, to be bordered with Sunni extremists. They saw that as a threat. Now, they are bordered by not entirely Sunni extremists, but they have access to it now. This used to be a regime territory. So I don't know if there's going to be Syria has had no issue meddling in Lebanon in the past. And now that we've got Sunni extremists potentially on the border, I don't know if there's going to be repercussions against Lebanese Shiites. I don't think I've seen any of it yet. It's something to look out for, maybe. Maybe it'll be a thing. Maybe it won't. There's no casus belli? No, but I mean, what part of the world are we talking about here, right? Israel, you naughty, naughty boy. Okay. So Israel has basically invaded Syria. It's kind of, yeah. That's been a thing that happened in the last 24 hours. Why? Why would they do such a thing? Well, After the Yom Kippur War in the 70s, 73, Israel pushes back Syria, and part of the ceasefire agreement was that they would have a demilitarized zone right here along the border between the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights and Syria. Now, the terms of that demilitarized zone are public. This disengagement, the Syrian-Israeli disengagement agreement, and the drawing of the buffer zone, it's public. Unfortunately, it didn't account for regime change. It didn't say anything about regime change. So it seems that Israel have basically left that up to themselves and decided that this agreement can't really stand anymore because there's the regime that we made that agreement with, dictatorships, they're quite constant, it's not there anymore. So now they see this as a threat. They don't like the idea of Sunni extremists or other rebels being there, like a new, unpredictable, emboldened group. So they took it. I'm going to give it a 99% chance that this is illegal. I don't think the disengagement terms seem to say anything that allows this. It's not even the first time they've done it. In November, just a month ago, Israel was already digging trenches along this side of the DMZ, where they weren't supposed to be. As far as I know, yesterday they fired shots in what they claimed was defending UN positions because they saw unspecified armed men moving towards the DMZ, to the border. And they've also, preemptively, I guess, decided to bomb weapon sites in Damascus, which they say had chemical weapons. So every charlatan prick who has been telling you that these Sunni extremist rebels, or any, even secular, whatever, there's so many rebel factions, any rebel faction against Assad is somehow Israeli and in coordination with Israel. Mate, Israel did not want this, okay? If Israel could get what they wanted, I think what would have been ideal for them would have been enough of a gain for HTS and the rebels to weaken Assad as much as possible, but without them getting this border. That's probably what Israel would have wanted, okay? Israel would have wanted a weakened Assad with a limited gain for the rebels. Because then limited gain for the rebels would weaken Assad. They'd make him as weak as he could possibly be whilst this border remains secure. I don't think Israel wanted a guy called Jolani, okay, his nom de guerre, the guy who is descended from people who were kicked out of the Golan Heights in 67 war, who gave himself the pseudonym of the Golan Heights, Jolani Golan, coming up to their border. I don't think Israel wanted that. And Israel are freaking the shit out, okay? They are big mad. They're bombing weapon sites. They're charging into the demilitarized zone. They've gone past the demilitarized zone, I think. The buffer zone isn't populated. No, they're not taking populated land. I doubt they're going to put settlers there or anything like that. They see this as a security measure, but it's a very reckless one. It's a very reckless, again, I don't know what the loophole is, but I'm going to say it's illegal, okay? Subject to whatever argument. We'll see if the Lieber Institute puts an article out tomorrow. Do you know what's really ironic? For all the talk about Israeli coordination with Jolani and HTS, the only group that seems to have coordinated with Israel is Russia. I don't know if this is 100% true. Okay, I think it comes from Al Arabiya, but apparently there was an observatory in the Daraa governorate, Daraa, which is there. Apparently Russia handed a position over to Israel before they left. So with them going past the DMZ, it's like, now you've got the Golan Heights, which is a security zone, right? That's why they annexed it. They see it as vital for international security, okay? Then you've got the DMZ, which is the buffer zone for a kind of like glorified buffer zone. And then you've got a bit more of a buffer zone for the buffer zone for the, if you stretch the definition a bit, buffer zone to Israel. It's that thing, you know? What's next? What's next? Do they need a corridor? The only thing that's missing from this for Israeli security measures is a corridor. Nah, you know, if Israel just keeps going, you know, I don't think they will. So they've said it's temporary, but I mean, temporary depending on what, right? Like, if Jolani and HTS and the rebels respond, then it's not going to be temporary. Then they're going to say that, oh no, wait, like, man, if Israel keeps going and they end up at like the Euphrates, I'll probably kill myself. I will feel very stupid. Hopefully not. I don't know how that's going to get resolved. I don't know what the response is going to be here. Could it be a bargaining chip against any new Syrian government? Do you think Netanyahu is preparing to negotiate with a post-regime change Syria? I don't think you do you know how unstable this prospect is, right? Okay. You've got a 54-year-old regime. No, wait, sorry. Yeah, you've got like a 50-plus-year-old regime that collapses overnight. You've got so many different rebel factions around these areas. You think Netanyahu is in any position to think like within the next 5 years we're going to be talking to whoever becomes in charge of Damascus? Like no way. That's not a bargaining chip. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I think it's honestly their way of saying, listen, we're not around, okay, Mr. Jolani, that's cute, but don't fuck around. I think that's probably what they're saying with that, and maybe they want to fortify some areas, but. I don't think there's any scenario, whatever regime replaces Assad, okay? I do not believe whatever regime takes over is going to make any peace with Israel without the Golan Heights. I don't think it's happening. Because that person would get absolutely murked. Anyway, do the Syrians not have the right to try to take back Golan? I believe, so I'm just going to give you my moral position because the legal is weird. I think if whatever new leader of Syria, whatever new regime, in good faith offers peace to Israel for the Golan, yes, Israel, I think, should be obligated to leave. Yes, because it is territory that was occupied via conquest. Yes. And if they don't, then I think they can do whatever they want to get it back. Because barring the United States, I think everyone else in the world considers the Golan Syrian. It's still Syrian. Defensive conquest is legal? Not per Resolution 242, I'm afraid. That was not the agreement that was made. Anyway, what do the Druze who live there want? You know what? That's a good question. I don't know. Anyway, some of the things we've been seeing from this fallout is pretty insane. If you guys don't know, the Sednaya prison was liberated in Damascus yesterday. This is a very infamous prison because it has been known for being basically the site of some of the most brutality of the Assad regime. It's where usually people who opposed the regime were taken, tortured, executed, held basically in dungeons for obscene periods of time. And a lot of people didn't really, we heard from human rights reports and things like that, but a lot of what happened in here was kind of obscure. So yeah, some of the things they found in here, this is them breaking in, I think, to the main level. Was it this is the underground floor, the secret floor. Okay. I know some of the prisoners said they thought they were being liberated by Saddam's forces. Yes. I think they found a collection of nooses, I believe. Yeah. Yeah, apparently some people didn't know Hafiz was dead, like 24 years ago. Z, you're in charge. Okay, you're in charge
What's
here.
up?
What was being said there?
Oh my god. Are you talking about the guy who was like in the video earlier?
Yeah, the prison.
He's talking about the Sednaya prison. There are people underground, apparently, in like 3 stories underground, being held inside of like closed areas. It took them like a lot of manpower and hours to get them out.
Yeah, I heard that. It took that it wasn't even just getting into all the rooms and all the levels was like a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people got released from that prison.
Yeah, they didn't check anyone, did they? They were just they just let people out because I think the understanding is that you're in here if you oppose the regime, right? Like it's not like
Most of the people, they don't put you in Sednaya if you're like a murderer or something like that. I'm pretty sure, at least from the documents that came out.
Okay. This is the women's block. Yeah, this was mental. This is unbelievable.
This was mental. They were afraid to get out of their cells. Have you seen it?
Yeah. By the way, because they probably thought it could have been a ruse, right? Like
Not to mention
psychological
the child
warfare.
getting out of the cell as well.
Yeah, just like wandering out. Yeah.
The women's prison stuff is actually heart-wrenching. Like, it makes you sick. Like, the that has come out of there.
They're afraid to get out of their cells. This probably happened before. Or they got bruised. Most likely.
Maybe,
يلا النسوان اطلعوا لا تخافوا عمي لا تخافوا.
Yeah, we're watching. Yeah, watch the share screen so you're not speaking over the videos. By the way.
Oops.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. I can't hear the boop boop boop. There you go.
لا تخافوا انتوا طلعوا. سوار يا اخي سوار. هات شوي. انت من وين انت من وين؟ طلعوا. يلا سيروا بعد شوي. يلا دقيقة لا تخافوا عمي لا تخافوا. لا تخافي اختي لا تخافي. بعد كبروا.
Look at this. A little nipper just waddles out of the room and just me. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
They keep telling them, by the way, don't be afraid. We're rebels. And they're just not reacting to them.
These women don't know the fathers of these children. That's
Really?
Yeah, they don't know any of the fathers. Yes.
Wow.
تخرجوا معي طلعوا الحمد لله على السلامة طلعوا روحوا سلامة طلعوا تروحوا منين طارية ما في حدا يلا راح نطالع لك يا سلطان هون راح نترك هوية ما حدا لك ما بدك شيء روحي يا عمي روحي الله أكبر.
Just so we know, Assad was offered asylum in Moscow on humanitarian grounds. That's what they said.
I think someone said he's the last Syrian refugee.
Wait, they also, I think what I heard is they also separate like children that are boys from the women, so they could only keep like the girls in this prison. So it's absolutely like there's no words.
I mean, we haven't even gotten the documents out yet. Seems like
Yeah,
only
that
from
we're
the
gonna. I'm
videos
gonna mention
themselves.
that later, but like I think as far as documenting, like I know that they seized a bunch of documents from the political security archives because they're all there, and this is a 50-year-old regime that used to be Soviet backed. Like they used to work with the KGB. So is that the first time that's happened that we might potentially see declassified documents from one of these like Soviet backed like pan-Arab dictatorships from, well, I guess Iraq, but
That'd be crazy.
yeah.
Not a lot of things came out of Iraq because of most of the. I think got destroyed.
Yeah.
Here, most of the rebels not the rebels. Most of the regime soldiers just crumbled. Most of the documents that got burned, if I remember correctly, was in either Homs. Yeah, I think it was Homs.
Didn't the IDF also airstrike one of those intelligence agencies like buildings?
Yeah, in Damascus.
Yeah.
يلا ندورك على مناط روحي يا عمي روحي ليش خايفة؟ لك راح بشار الأسد سقط ليش خايفة؟ سقط راح ما ضلش بالشار سقط ما ضل دولة بدنا نطلع العالم ما في شيء اطلعي لبرا حدا ينزل معي لهون يا شباب أنا نازل معكم شباب حدا ينزل معي شو بدكم عمي؟ بدنا ننزل لجوا ليش؟ برا من هون دلونا على الطريق
هوياتنا بس
يا عمي الله أكبر.
They're basically asking them to go down into the offices to get their IDs, and they're telling them, we don't need the IDs. Just go out, basically.
وين الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر كبروا الله أكبر راح لا تخاف كبروا طالعت لك اياهم كله طالعت لكم راحوا ما ضل لكن النسوان طلعناهم يلا طلعوا وين
One of the guys was asking him, did you get my mom out earlier?
People are asking what's going to happen to minorities. Well, for Christians, I think there's already been promising relations between HTS and the Christians in Idlib. Like that was already a thing. I don't know what's going to happen to the rest. It's like so far there's been instructions given. Yeah. What's that? Has anything happened?
The
there
Alawites,
yet,
the rebels. No. The rebels already went to Latakia and talked to us. And they seem to be going. Things are going well for now.
Yeah, I mean the minorities are like celebrating with the rebels in the street. Like they're all like out there and just like dancing.
Are Alawites celebrating with rebels?
Yeah, they're literally on the street. Like
Okay. He called Bashar son of a sharmuta. What's a sharmuta?
It's a whore.
Oh, I know that because of Israel. Yeah. Okay. This is a prisoner describing what happened to him. Actually, before this one. 1 second. They found there were holes as well. There were like.
Oh yeah, there's somebody from Latakia in your server, by the way.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, but they don't think they ever come into VC, do they?
No, they don't.
Wait, that
Let me
whole
see if they're.
tweet
Let me see if they're even awake. Hold on.
He hasn't been able to sleep lately because of the gunfire, apparently.
Yeah.
I just came in to say a quick thing because I didn't sleep yesterday. I was watching the news minute by minute. So I just wanted to say that I've never seen Syrians so happy and so like feeling like one unit, brothers, like everyone, even people I know who were supposedly pro-Assad. Everyone was posting like anti-Assad on social media yesterday. People, I was celebrating today in Paris. There were like thousands of people in the streets just screaming, feeling happy, feeling relieved. So we don't know the consequences. No one knows. But what we know is that we did a huge achievement. Like we got out Assad. The Assad family is out, and we feel very relieved. We hope the future will be better, but I doubt it will be worse. I doubt anything will be worse. You starting to see the images from Sednaya. It was very hard for me to see people that I probably walked by one day. I know that there's the brother of a close friend of mine that might be there. He might be dead. We don't know. There's still thousands of people in there from every nationality: Americans, Jordanians, Lebanese, Palestinians. And yeah, I'm just glad this nightmare is over. I think a lot of Syrians are. And yeah, let's hope the future will be better for us. I will leave you guys. I'll probably call you. I'll call in tomorrow or after tomorrow, Lonor, so maybe we can analyze more of this. But yeah, guys.
All right, take care. Get some sleep.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
كانوا مع فجة الضوء يجي يفوتوا على المهاجر مباشرة يفتحوا بيسحبوه بيطلع اسمه بينساق على الإعدام. كان ياخذوه أول شيء قديما أول ما رحنا كان 2 يسحبوه قبل الإفطار 2 و3 و4 خلال 3 أيام ما في أكل ولا شرب ضرب قتل بعدين يسحبوه على حبل المشرقة تيجي المنصات بالسجن نفسه يسحبوه يعلقوه تنعدم العالم يشيلوها يصفطوها مثل البطاطا تطلع السيريات وتروح.
Yeah, tell us what he's saying. Or
He's basically saying that at least every day before breakfast, they would actually choose 2 people to get basically executed that day, and that's about it. They don't like feed them till they get hanged at the rest of the day.
oh, that's why the noose is okay.
مين يطلع شلون يصير لكن حتى الموتى الاعدام اللي كان يصير بصدنايا يعني كان رغم كل شيء كان لا يوصل.
So he's saying basically someone dies 100 times before they actually kill him from the torture, starvation, and whatnot.
كان جوع شو ما تشرح شيء لا يوصل اللي طلع الله كتب له عمر جديد متنا كثير اكثر من موتى لكن ما مر معي ناس مثلا يكون ما جعبان على
They're asking him about a certain someone from their family, and he's saying, I haven't heard of him, but they would recycle prisoners so quickly
Okay.
that sometimes you don't remember their names at all.
خالك يابا خالك هذا ولا بعرفه هاي غنوشتك
تعال يا عمر يلا تعال يا عمر. Is that his? Who's that kid? Is that his son or?
That's his nephew.
Okay.
They haven't met ever,
All
apparently, according to his brother.
تفاجأتوا يوم فتح السجن؟ احنا لما صار الصبح اليوم احنا نايمين في كاميرا احنا ما مسترجين نتجلس ونتابع الامور احنا متسطحين تكبير ناموا الكاميرات تقوسونا بيعدمونا شو استعصاء ما حتى صمت لحتى اجى عاد فات صار اطلاق نار عليكم السلام صار اطلاق نار اجى واحد فتح
Right now, they were asking him like how did it feel to get released, and he's saying we actually didn't know that we were being released. We thought it was a mock thing before they executed us. We didn't realize that we were being released till they came to the doors and started shooting the doors and letting us out.
Okay. Okay. I know there's just all kinds of other like I think these guys are trying to ask this guy what his name is and where he's from, and he's just not saying anything. Like that kind of prison.
شو عم حكاية لا تخاف شو اسمك انت؟ اهلك يجي ياخذوك مشان ننشرك على التلفون. وين انت اخي؟ من وين انت؟ لا حول من حمص؟ من حمص؟ ايه شو اسمك؟ شو اسمك؟
And I guess there's a huge number of people leaving the prison as well.
I mean, there was a guy documented coming out of Sednaya naked, basically.
Yeah.
Apparently.
It's also just like they don't look like starved, but they're all like underfed looking. You know, they all look a little bit gaunt. Weren't there reports of forced cannibalism in Sednaya? Yep, as far as I know. Was that confirmed or I don't know. I don't remember. I read about it a long time ago.
Most of the report was corroborated by the United States, if I remember correctly, and the trials in Germany.
Well,
by the way, people were asking, are those political prisoners? Most of the people in Sednaya were political prisoners, as far as we know.
Apparently, there will be a UN Security Council meeting. They're looking to re-implement Resolution 2254 from 2015.
What about the elections?
I don't know. They're saying they're trying to get all the Arab states to like have a political talk and see like in Geneva to see what's going to happen in Syria.
Yeah, because there's so much, right? There's rebuilding, there's reintegrating refugees, there's reconciling like everything, all the crimes. Yeah.
Everything needs to be documented. They need to like make sure the identities of everybody is like what they are. Like, yeah.
You've said Gaza needs a Marshall Plan, but honestly,
also there's going to be so many trials.
what are all the measures of 2254? This is to do with humanitarian aid. It's to do with what else? I forget. I forget. I don't know. 2254. Ceasefire, confidence building, viability of a political process. Oh yeah, it's like okay, yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Calls on the parties to immediately allow humanitarian agencies rapid and safe unhindered access throughout Syria.
Yeah, I think it's also about
the
just
rebels
using,
are going to stop them.
It's like using a ceasefire to build up towards, like, basically like a lasting peace, like state building and everything. Yeah. Okay.
Right now, the only fighting that's happening in Syria is between the SNA and the SDF. At least official fighting.
Oh yeah, the US didn't the US say like that they would intervene if there's like happening to the SDF?
Yeah, the HTS already acknowledged that they've been warned not to enter SDF territory.
Well, HTS are going to intervene if SNA go into SDF territory.
No, the US. The US.
Oh, the
No,
US.
The US.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, let you hear that, Americans?
For now,
That should
while
make you
Biden is
proud.
on.
Oh yeah, because
I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know what Trump will do. Honestly.
Trump gonna 2.0 the Kurds. Jesus.
Who probably might just pull out U.S. troops.
Okay.
To be fair, when it comes to the Kurds, has been pretty cordial.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll see.
I think the guy in the green jacket, I'm not sure, did he just say they butchered us, right?
Can you go back so I can listen to him better?
Pretty sure he said like the right?
Yeah, he's saying, oh no.
Yeah.
They slaughter us. I don't know which section of prisoners these are, but they've been calling them the red ones. They might be from the red section of the prison, which is like the last one.
Okay.
One of the guys is saying, "I've been in prison for 9 years. I've been in prison for 9 years." Keep saying it back and forth.
Seabugs is asking why they're not in prison jumpsuits. As far as the Assad regime is as brutal as they were also quite scuffed. I'm pretty sure, but
yeah. Also, they're not like this. Most of these aren't actual criminals. Like you don't. Like, what's the point of like making sure they're uniform, or at least like, what's the point of like having them all be identifiable under a number or something like that? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, they'll just them anyways, is what they think.
Did the regime have like work camps or?
Did they have what?
Like
work camps?
Yeah, like forced labor camps.
Not that I know of, but. Yeah, but this is what the Assad regime kind of, it's them in a nutshell, right? They're probably, no processing, like probably poor documentation. Yeah, all that. Yeah.
Yeah, the earlier video had a full room with a table with all their IDs just sprawling around.
And what did Tanky say about this? Oh, they say either they completely mulled over the loss of Assad, or if they're more tactical, they'll just say that this is the region being destabilized.
Yeah, they think they're all like terrorists and shit like that.
Yeah.
By the way, this was all done under the guise of protecting minorities in Syria. It's complete like nonsense. It's absolute.
This is apparently the room of the guards, at least per the video.
Okay.
They're calling them pigs.
Pigs and dogs.
Isn't it a thing where you sometimes like where the guards are in kind of like not great conditions as well when they work? Because I guess the idea is you make them mad and they take it out on the prisoners.
Probably not the officers, because when they stormed the Sednaya, apparently they holed up in the lower areas till they negotiated with the rebels to get safety out of the place.
Now, I believe this one, the white helmets are apparently already deploying teams to go and investigate this. Wait, what's the difference between a white helmet and a blue helmet?
I'm guessing aid.
The white helmets have been
Yeah.
the people who've been.
Humanitarian aid.
They're just a humanitarian org. Are they the UN or are they different?
Wait, no.
No, I'm pretty
They're
sure
volunteers.
they're not the UN.
Oh, they're volunteers.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna put the screen off
They're
for a second.
the
because this is
people who help.
probably-
They're the people who help the chemical attacks people.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, they were. Yeah, because people. Yeah. I remember. Yeah, because I remember there's such a thing
Also,
as white helmet
Assad-
propaganda. People would say. Yeah.
Assad's cousin, I think, got in the Latakia.
Rip.
Yeah. So they're trying to get them all. Well, the ones that are still in Syria, I suppose.
Okay, where is?
I think the most surprising thing in Latakia is the fact that people were
Yeah,
getting
happy
out with
about
the
it.
rebels celebrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is surprising. I didn't think that would happen. This is not going to be shown on screen because I think it's not safe for work. So if you're watching in the Discord, look away if you're squeamish. But they've already discovered some of the devices that they were using in the prison. At least one. This one is called an iron execution press, apparently, and it's like where you basically crush someone to death in a press. Link it. It's in the Discord.
Jesus.
Oh no, they don't actually. Obviously, they're not showing you an execution. Okay, yeah, you can show.
Basically,
Yeah.
just a hydraulic press for people.
Yep. Oh, this is where they found the nooses. Okay. Well, that's basically all the Sednaya stuff I got so far. What did Spider send me? You've probably seen this. What am I looking at here?
Look into like the family photos and shit.
What's this? Oh, family photos of Assad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, because they were looting his palace, right?
Yeah,
There were a
they
bunch of
stormed
people
his
looting
palace, so-
yeah. And they found the bunker. Oh yeah, he's also like in his
He's
pants.
naked.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't naked. He was in speedos. Okay, chill. Yeah, they found like I think these were some of the pictures they found. Yeah, actual. Oh god, his car collection is impressive. Look at this.
I think it's only
Now,
one
dude, have you
garage.
seen his?
Yeah, it's like
Have you
just
seen
one
his movie
small part
collection?
of his garage.
No, I've not seen his movie collection.
Oh my god. Apparently he's a Star Trek fan.
Oh god,
bro.
There's nothing more depraved in this world than like a skinny, weedy little dork with no chin.
Yeah, you people also like Assad has a net worth of like $2 billion.
Oh.
That's a nice car.
Oh, he's gonna be living comfortably, of course. And fuck him though.
Common Trekkie L, true.
Is that Audi? Yes.
Fucking
He's got a
quad bike.
van.
Yeah, he's got a few like camper vans, right? This guy's just like, this is a bit much.
Yeah.
What political security archives? This is the. Listen, you guys might not find this exciting, okay? But this is cool. Look at the like.
They found the archives.
Wait, they
Oh my
found
God.
some? Oh,
Yeah.
thank God. Thank God they found some, at least. Yeah, this is
طبعاً
really
لكن
important. I hope they
بالنسبة
get
لك
them
إلى
somewhere where nobody knows where
ملف.
they are, so like...
Yeah, like they're all.
Yeah.
I believe there would be KGB stuff here, like because obviously Syria was Soviet backed for a while. This is from the security, like political security apparatus, I think, whatever it's called. I don't know what the actual department's called, but yeah.
What
Is the Rayon thing just like labels for like the archive?
I imagine it would be like a coded system, so I don't think they have any idea what exactly is what. But wait, what's he saying? What's he saying? Start scanning. Start PDFing. All right, yeah. What are they saying?
Malef, which is folders
Okay.
or files.
Okay, good. Confirmed.
طبعا لكل عائلة بسويدة في إلها درج خاص فيها
I was filming this on a Motorola, that's how shit this...
That's the entire Arab world only exists in 240p. Okay, it's not their fault.
تقارير هيكل
Oh my God.
بالأمن السياسي بسويدة عائلة بسويدة في إلها هذا الدرج
KGB doesn't exist. Yeah, but Syria was Soviet backed in the 70s, right? It was the Assad regime. It was just his dad. It's like they've had two leaders. They've had two presidents since 1971, Hafez and Bashar.
Basically, he's saying this is the political archive of the people in Soweto. What he's saying, at least, is basically every family in Soweto has a file in here. Apparently.
Okay. What is this? Wait, I can't look at this on stream. Definitely not. But
No,
this
you
is
can't.
documentation on people everyone who died in the war, or what? Or if it's from one of the
Everyone
prisons.
who died in the prisons, I think.
Oh, okay. Martyrs of torture. Warning. Okay. Oh, yeah. Air intelligence. Oh, Palestine branch.
Oh yeah, they have like a whole prison just
Jesus.
for Palestinians in Syria.
Yeah, that's a lot of dead people.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
You can see their bruises. They were most likely beaten before they were killed as well.
Yeah. I'm gonna do memes. We need to do memes. We watched this one yesterday, didn't we? The Lebanese Shiite who was bragging about being in Hama.
وانت منك هون صوروا هيك بتعرف هيدي الحاره لا بصورها بتعرف هيدي الحاره منيح هيدي حارتك وانا اليوم بحارتك وانت لهون ما بقى تجي بحياتك.
How long was he planning this? This guy was waiting for so long to film this video. When was the first one filmed? Like 2 months? Okay, yeah, 2 months. That's all he's been thinking about.
قالوا هي حارتكم ومستحيل توصلوا عليه. الحمد لله فتنا حباب النخل الحمد لله رب العالمين هي حارتنا جايين عم يتشفروا بشوارع غيره هلا صور عامل حاله قشاش حمام.
I don't want to know what would have happened to that Shia guy if this guy caught him.
If they found him,
It's like catching like a Twitter troll in real life, you know? I want to watch Syria Girl malding. Oh God, it's the best one. She's so mad. Oh my God.
Well, there's obviously been some kind of a deal.
How did she do this? Like, I really want to know what's happening inside her head, because she said that this was tactical, that they were going to launch a counteroffensive to overstretch the enemy. And the next day, she's like, okay, what actually happened here? And just so seamlessly.
Well, there's obviously been some kind of a deal.
Obviously, yeah.
Some kind of
okay. Makes all
backdoor handshake. The army simply chose not to fight, preserving our cities.
They haven't been fighting over Damascus in like 10 years. They just left it. A big steaming pile of ash. That's what I mean. He like burnt his country to the ground so that he could be king of the ashes. Anyway, sorry. It's just when you look at that and you hear her saying,
the army simply chose not to fight, preserving our cities. And having some clowns laughing over here. Would you kindly remove them? I don't have a mood for clowning right now. They're tired of them. They're supportive of Al-Qaeda. Okay, now you have 3 of them. If you would like a discussion with someone from our side of the fence, I would like you to remove everybody that's smiling right now.
You can't order that, dude.
Yeah,
Stop
but
it.
okay. When you try to say that
Those are my
it's stop,
terms. Those are my terms. Another smiling from the colonel, the clown colonel that supports our.
Just let's have a discussion.
Major General Hasan.
Let's have a discussion. Let me have a discussion if possible.
Yeah, let's have Syrian Girl finish, and then we can go from there.
Let's have Syrian Girl focus on me and all sources.
And he's one that smiles.
It doesn't matter what they smile. What matters is what you're bringing to the discussion. And so
James, do you want me to stay?
I want you to.
Then you give them the order not to smile. All right.
Guys,
okay.
That's how it works. The Assad brain. Jesus Christ, she's so mad. She's so
Wait, is she in Syria?
No, she lives in Australia.
No, she's in Australia.
Bruh. No, like her ethnicity.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, she's got Syrian heritage, but she's in Syria. But yeah, she's a full-on. She's just an Assadist. She just likes Assad.
Oh, she's like a Assad.
Yeah.
He surrendered on better terms.
Let's
okay.
let her finish.
That's my terms.
Okay, look,
These are my terms.
Okay, your terms.
Hold on. You can't
control them because you can tell them that they can drop. You know, this Eric fellow, who I don't even know who he is.
Okay.
The colonel of Israel. Look at them. They're smiling. Look at them. How can we have a discussion? You ask me a question and you have some clowns
James.
laughing as Al-Qaeda takes over Syria.
I can understand why you love authoritarian rule.
Okay, can I just set up the thing? You guys.
Yeah, I do love authoritarian rule.
It is a situation, Syrian Girl, you're in a situation where you're having a discussion. People can react. I can't control what people can do. Okay, if you want to have a discussion with us, we would love to have your position because we want to have that position, especially the people that are managing that space right now. That we want to understand what your arguments are, what the arguments are, what the Bashar position is, and what we're looking forward in that situation. If you want to engage in that discussion, we would happily do that.
My terms are he doesn't smile.
Terms. There's. Do you want to discuss?
All right, then I bid you good day, sir.
How dare you not send the chatters to Sednaya right now?
Oh God, what an absolute state.